your cell phones off, please. And if you have not participated in a plan commission meeting before, the way it works is the chair introduces the item, the staff gives the staff report, and at that point, there are technical questions from the plan commission, and then we open it up to the public, for the public to speak. And we'll give you time to know that. And so come to the podium over there and state your name and address and your views when it's time for you to speak. And then when everyone's finished, we'll bring it back to the commission for a vote. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Mitchell? Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Here.
Ms. Davy? Councilmember Ford?
Here.
Mr. Groth? Mr. Kiefer?
Here.
Mr. Hins?
Present.
Chairperson Prob.
Here. We have the June 15th minutes. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Minutes are approved. Mr. Lyons.
Thank you. All right, so we have the organizational part of our yearly meeting to take care of today with our elections of officers. As normal, I'll kind of handle that portion of it, and then once we're completed, we will turn it back over to the chair for continuation of the meeting. So first, we need to elect a chairperson for the commission. I will call for nominations 3 times. Then we will have a motion to close nominations and vote. Anyone would like to make a recommendation for chair? Mr. Ford?
I'll nominate John Hintz.
Any other nominations? All right, second call for nominations. And third and final call for nominations.
Is the current chair an automatic nominee?
She is not unless someone would nominate her. Last
Okay,
call.
I'll nominate the current chair.
All right, we have 2 nominations, so we will do a roll call
Can
vote.
you repeat the names?
Yep, so Councilmember Ford and Ms. Prop are the 2 nominations.
I'm not.
Or excuse me, Councilmember Ford nominated Mr. Hintz. Mr. Coulibaly nominated Ms. Prop. Sorry about that.
And I appreciate that, but I decline.
Aye.
I will happily give it over to John.
All right, as we only have 1 nomination, though, then we will close nominations, and we do not need to vote because we only have 1 nomination. So, congratulations, Mr. Hintz. Then we do need to do vice chair nominations as well. So, same process. I will call 3 times for nominations for the vice chair. Nominations for vice chair.
If she'll accept, I would nominate Ms. Prop.
I'll accept this.
I will call a second time. Any nominations for vice chair? And third and final nominations for vice chair. Seeing none, congratulations, Ms. Prop.
Swap chairs, Kathy?
Now we'll have you swap
We'll have a
chairs.
shift.
The official changing of the hat, I guess. Kathy, thank you.
I've left you the cheat sheet here, John. Grab something. You good? I got it.
Well, you can keep that one, Kathy. I have one also.
Yeah, but that's the lemon.
I have a laminated one also. You have to run another meeting. You need that.
No, I've got my own.
I have one too.
Okay.
Of course, it's right after I'm recovering from a summer cold.
Final thing then is we do need to reaffirm our secretary for the Plan Commission. In the past, it has been Schuler. So we would need,
Just read this part.
We have a secretary.
Very bottom. do I need to read it as is, or just say I affirm?
You can say you affirm.
Okay. I affirm that Hannah Schuler has been previously named Secretary of the Commission and will continue in that capacity.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, on to number 2, sir.
I have to. Let me get organized. Okay. On to number 2. General Development Plan and Specific Implementation Plan for a personal storage facility for property located at 1300 South Keller Street. Have there been any site inspections? Myself. Okay, and I don't have my cheat sheet for how to, okay, there we go. We accept the staff report as part of the record.
Thank you.
Present your,
So this item was tabled from the last Plan Commission meeting. It's a former Shopco site. The applicant is proposing a personal storage facility in the former Shopco site. There were a few questions that the Plan Commission wanted to have answered prior to voting on this. So the applicant has responded to those questions. I'll kind of go over those. Okay, here's an aerial of the site. These are all previous slides. This is kind of the same site plan we had previously. So here are the revised elevations. So the first question was, will there be overhead doors? The applicant has responded there will be no overhead doors on the exterior of the building other than the existing loading area on the south side of the building. The south side over here is where they're referring to. How will the 2 front entrances be used? Shown here. The applicant responded that both entrances will be utilized, and customers will use carts and dollies to load their items from the parking lot into the building. Next question was, can the former garden area be removed and converted to green space? And the applicant has removed a big chunk of that. However, they did leave some of that pavement. So they noted that some of the area will remain. However, staff is recommending that all of that former garden area be returned to green space and landscaping. So the next question was, does the shared parking agreement allow for any removal of existing parking? The applicant has noted they cannot unilaterally remove any of the parking behind the IHOP. They will remove a dozen or so stalls along the south property line and replace it with additional landscaping. So those are the questions that Plan Commission had requested an answer to. So here's the revised renderings again. So with that, staff recommends approval of the General Development Plan and Specific Implementation Plan with the findings listed in your staff report.
okay, thank you. Technical questions, anyone on the commission? Any technical questions? Okay, I'm seeing none. We'll move to the public for comment. Is there anybody here from the public who would like to make a comment on this? Want to approach the podium, name and address. You know the drill, Mr. Bowen.
Ed Bowen, the Morgan Partners, 601 Oregon Street, Oshkosh. Just here to answer any transactional procedural questions. Josh Sullivan from True Storage, who will be the operator of the actual facility, is also here to answer any questions that the group may have. I do have some revised renderings as well as an updated site plan showing the proposed concrete pavement removal area on that south end in response to the recommendation from staff showing kind of the proposed method of dealing with that on that south end of it. So if anyone has, if you want to do those, I think, were these actually the ones that got put in the staff report? Yes. Okay, then I'll hold on to these. So if there's questions, we are happy to address anything that you may have.
Kathy?
No question, just a comment. Thank you for responding. Thanks to the storage folks for responding to our requests, and I think you've met everything that I had in mind.
Well, and you can thank Josh from traveling from New Hampshire to
I do.
make sure that he addresses any questions that we may have as well. So
Okay.
he gets to drive back to Milwaukee tonight in a storm. So dedicated to the project.
Any other questions from the commission?
All right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bowen.
Congratulations, Mr. Hintz, on your new position.
Thanks, Ed. Anybody else from the public who would like to speak to this item? And I know you just sat down, Ed. Any final statements, or are you good?
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we'll close the public comment session. We'll return to the commission. Look for a motion.
Make a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, any comment, any discussion? Ms. Tom?
Yes, I continue to remain opposed to this, and I need to bring up that in the past, when we talked about a different storage unit on a main thoroughfare, that many current and even former board members in the room here voted against that because of the public view of that storage facility on a major thoroughfare. And nothing has changed in my opinion, but apparently opinions based on previous precedent have changed significantly. What is even more concerning is that there's a feeling that if we don't do something with this, then this building will remain empty. And I just want to remind former and current board members that that was the same concern with the other development that took place. And 4 meetings later, the current person occupying the building came to us and now has established a very nice looking and very appropriate business on a main thoroughfare. So decisions shouldn't be made based on nothing else is going to be happening because something could. So I'm just remaining opposed to this. I will be voting no and needed to bring up some points from the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin?
I believe I read that you are recommending 3 years, that the lot 1 be developed within 3 years. And just to clarify, if that is not the case and it does not develop, what is the recourse?
Then it would need to be returned to green space.
Which just a lawn then, or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, removal of the asphalt or concrete.
Any other discussion? Yes.
Well, I appreciate Mr. Perry's position on this, but to me, this is a big box that we can't see what's inside it. It could be anything inside it, and just because it's storage, there'll be a sign that says storage, but other than that, I think it'll be an improvement for a vacant building, and I will vote for it.
Thank you, Kathy. Anybody else? I just like to add on to what Kathy was saying, and I think looking forward, and I think I addressed this in part at least at our last meeting. Moving forward, if we do end up with a glut of storage spaces in this city, that's one of the easiest things for a developer to come in and get rid of and redevelop a property with. So if we have a successful business in here for, say, 10 years or 15 years, but then they were to go down, the ability for another one to come in and redevelop on the site, I'm guessing, Mark, you'd agree with me on this, it makes it one of the easier redevelopments for a place to come in. It's not going to be this multi-million-dollar thing. It'd be hundreds of thousands, but not millions. So I think as far as long-term thinking ahead, right now we need the storage space, obviously, because everybody wants to build storage units in the city of Oshkosh. And if it's a short-lived item, then there's going to be a building for places to develop, and there hopefully be things that have developed in front of it, according to what Mr. Bowen had told us about what they were looking at putting in up front as well. So I'll definitely be supporting this. One last call. Anybody else on the commission like to say anything? Well, let's call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 7-1.
Okay, move on to item 3, street right-of-way dedication at the 800 block of West Packer Avenue. Any site inspections? Guess I'll be the only one. We accept the staff report as part of the record. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The city's requesting acceptance of a small site or a small area of right-of-way located along the north side of the 800 block of West Packer Avenue. Up on the screen is an aerial photo showing the Nevamar property, which fronts on Vinland Street. But the portion in question is this little section of West Packer that was never dedicated. Typically, when a right-of-way dead ends, well, without a cul-de-sac, usually it's squared off, not stepped like this particular section is. And here's just a close-up of the proposed dedication. The size of the dedication is 40 feet wide by 50 feet long and 2,000 square feet in area. This dedication will take place on a certified survey map, which is currently under staff review. Another thing this will rectify, currently public street and public sidewalk is located on the Nevamar site private property. This dedication will fix that irregularity. So with that, staff is supportive and recommends acceptance of the right-of-way along the north side of 800 block of West Packer as proposed. This is just the certified survey map showing the proposed dedication, and that's it.
Thank you, Jeff. Any technical questions from Planning Commission? Okay, I'm seeing none. Move it to the public. If the applicant's here, you can make a statement. Is this a city?
We are the applicants.
Yes. Is there anybody here who wants to make a statement? Okay. And if anybody from the public is here to discuss this item, now is your time. Okay, do I have to do that 3 times?
No.
Okay, seeing no one, we'll bring it back to the commission for a motion.
Make a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? See a lot of shaking heads, so let's call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Coolbally?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Okay. Item number 4, accept sanitary sewer main easement and amend existing sanitary main sewer easement at 2750 Vinland Street.
Thank you.
We have any site inspections? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Okay, and accept the staff report as part of the record. Go ahead,
No,
Mr.
thank
Nall.
you. This request involves the same site from the previous item. This is the Nevamar property located on the east side of Vinland Street. There's 2 parts to this request. The city's proposing or requesting acceptance of a new sanitary sewer easement and amendment of an existing easement located on the property. Back in the early 80s, the city was granted a easement to place sanitary sewer running. It's a green line right here. It's kind of hard to see, but the easement is drawn with a black line. And the purpose of the easement was to serve this the Nevmar facility, which was under development at that time. Reasons easements were used, most or if not all the properties now and at that time were located in the town of Oshkosh. So the most feasible way to get to the property was through easement. Now, in looking at the easement, it's in very close proximity and is located between existing buildings, and that makes it unfeasible for any future building additions to be added onto the existing structures. The city generally doesn't like placing permanent structures such as buildings over existing cities' water main or sewers. So the city is requesting a new easement located on the south side of their property. It's more or less a out-of-the-way location. The proposed easement is going to be 30 feet wide and will tie into the existing sanitary sewer over here on the east side and extending all the way to Vinland Street. The second part of this request is amending the existing easement up in this area. During review of the facilities, it was discovered that the city's sanitary sewer was not entirely located within the easement that was drafted up in the early 1980s. So to correct that problem, the city is proposing to amend that existing easement by dedicating, or not dedicating, but adding approximately 3,000 square feet in the shape of this triangle, which will then encompass the sanitary sewer completely. After acceptance of this easement and construction of the new sanitary sewer main, a portion of the existing main will be vacated and the easement released, allowing for future area for the building, or for Nevamar's property to either construct new buildings or expand existing buildings. The new easement is also going to be part of the same certified survey map shown on, that was part of item 1 with the right-of-way dedication. That's highlighted in this area circled by red. And this is just a close-up, a more detailed exhibit of the proposed, the new sanitary sewer easement. And this exhibit, I apologize for the poor quality, but this is the exhibit showing the modification or amendment to the existing sanitary sewer of that triangle area, which will now encompass the entire sanitary sewer. The easement and modification will allow the city to access the property and construct the new sanitary sewer and related structures within the easement area. And afterwards, the city will have continued rights to access the easement area to maintain, replace, relocate, or remove the sanitary sewer facilities. The city has been working with the property owner and is agreeable to the easement and the amendment. So with that, staff recommends approval of the acceptance of the proposed sanitary sewer and the amendment of the existing sanitary sewer as proposed.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Technical questions from Planning Commission? Okay, I'm seeing none, but I do see someone who may want to speak on the city's behalf.
Yeah, I
for
just,
the
want,
public
I
comment.
just wanted to note from a Public Works Engineering side of things, at this time, there is no plan to install sewer in the new easement. It's kind of there as a placeholder for as things develop and if it's needed. So it's just working with the property owner now as they're working to develop it so that we have it under control when we need it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions while we have him here? Okay, anybody else from the public like to speak to this item? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. We'll bring it back to the commission for a motion and discussion.
Make a motion to adopt the findings, recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the item? Let's call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Colabali?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5. Approve land acquisition of 143 Idaho Street. Do we have any site inspections of that? I guess I'm the only one who was out and about this week. Okay, we accept the staff report as part of the record. Mr. Now,
Thank
with
you.
again.
The city's Parks Department is requesting approval to acquire the property located at 143 Idaho Street. On the screen is the existing land use map, the subject site in the center here, which contains a single-family residence, detached garage, and other accessory structures. The site is located just south of the Parks Department Facilities Building, and also it's located north of some vacant parcels currently utilized by the Parks Department. The subject site is rhombus-shaped, 132 feet wide and 279 feet deep, containing 0.84 acres of land area. The purpose of the, here's an air photo of the site. The purpose of the land acquisition is to allow the city to move forward with new plans to renovate the site and build a new Parks Administration and Operations facility. It's been well over a decade. The city has seen a need to redevelop the site as the existing facility was built in the 1960s and no longer can host efficient operations and has outlived its usefulness. This is just a street view site of the house and a detached garage, and just over to the north is the southern area of the parks facility, or the existing parks facility. The city is working with a consultant to draft up plans for redevelopment of the site. This is proposed layout of the new structures and parking area, and this area in red is the approximate location of the proposed acquisition. So it is an obviously, it makes sense for the city to acquire this because it fills in this area and, or gives the city almost an entire or additional acre of land to work with. City staff has been in contact with the property owners about the possible acquisition, and they have accepted an offer to purchase contingent on approval by the Common Council. This approval is the first step for the city to acquire the property. The city is required to follow the acquisition process as required by state statute. So with that, the staff recommends approval of the proposed acquisition at 143 Idaho Street as requested.
Okay, thank you. Technical questions? Justin?
Does the city have a policy in place for when they say come in control of a property with mature trees, such as this lot? Do they have like a replacement provision or any sort of?
There is no formal city policy for that. We do have the zoning ordinance requirements for the landscaping, but the city, to my knowledge, does not have a formal process related to that.
And the city itself would have to conform to those standards as well then?
Correct, short of them requesting base standard modifications through this body as any developer would. I know, speaking with Mr. Morrow from the Parks Department, who's here to help answer questions if we need be, should this move forward with the acquisition, our anticipation is in the next couple of meetings to be coming back to this body with a workshop to start the process of looking at the new Parks Administration building. I think council last year started the CIP funding for the replacement.
It's included in this year and the following in next 2 years.
Okay, any other questions?
So was this site chosen because it was more appealing than others, or what led the city to?
Yeah, so it's the ability to reuse the most property they already have. If you go back to the image, we have the existing site. The Parks Department already has some property below it. It kind of is the most efficient use of the space we already have by kind of adding that missing piece of the puzzle.
Aggregator.
Okay, anyone else? I have a question. I'm glad you have this one up.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks. 225. Are we looking at, is that one also being looked at as being acquired or no? And how's that?
I am not aware of that. Mr. Maurer shaking his head. It looks like no.
Just this property at 143.
Okay. I know it doesn't pertain to this. I'm just what's coming ahead because it kind of would square everything off. Thank you. Okay, any other technical questions? Seeing none, we'll go to public for comment, and I see we have Mr. Maurer up here, so if anybody has any questions for him, if you'd like to make a statement.
Well, I think as Mark and Jeff acknowledged, the building, all city facilities basically went through an assessment of their condition recently, and that was one of the goals of the city manager. And this building, this facility, obviously came in at the top. It's a 1960s era building that was not constructed for municipal operations, so it's again something that the Common Council has talked about for a number of years and ultimately decided that now is the time to start moving forward with the borrowing to complete the project.
Thank you. Any questions or comments while we have him up here? Okay, anybody else from the audience here to speak on this item? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. We'll bring it back to the commission for a motion and discussion.
I move to adopt the finding and recommendation as stated in the staff reports.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this item?
I'll just say quickly that this is a really good thing. That building is in woeful shape, and this is going to be a huge upgrade, and this is part of that process of upgrading our park capacity. So this is a good thing.
Sorely needed.
Anyone else? Okay, let's call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Okay, item number 6,
Public hearing, conditional use permit to request to allow a roof-mounted solar energy system at 815 West South Park Avenue. Do we have any site inspections of this site? Just me, I guess.
Mr. Perry as well.
Oh, Mr. Perry also. I didn't see his hand down there either. Glad you're across the table. We accept the staff report as part of the record and turn it over to city staff.
So as Mr. Hins stated, this is for a conditional use permit to request roof-mounted solar at this residence here at 815 West South Park. It's a residential property. Residential properties to the south, west, and east, and a church to the north. It consists of 20 solar panels mounted using a Unirack solar mount racking system located on the south side of the building. I don't know, here's a aerial image. If I can use the pointer here. Does that not work?
Not on the screen.
Oh, okay. So as I said, it's on the south side of the building. If you guys looked at the staff reports, there's an image there. Oh, the mouse pointer. Okay.
There you go.
So approximately right here. Again, 20 solar panels. With tonight, we have the zoning text amendments to remove the conditional use permit process. So we did reach out to the applicant to make them aware to see if they wanted to take back their application and wait for the process to kind of play out. And they wanted to go forward with it to kind of get the ball moving so they could get this installed. So just wanted to let everyone know that staff did attempt to have them withdraw their application, but they decided to move forward with it. Oh, there we go. Thanks. So again, that just shows the solar array. And staff recommends approval. I don't see, that's the wrong one though.
Yep, Brian. That slide got messed up. Like Brandon said, the staff does recommend approval. We reached out to both the applicant and the owner just to make sure they wanted to continue this process, knowing we are proposing amendment of those regulations, as Brandon noted. The timing of it, they wish to just proceed with conditional use permit at this time, even though we are suggesting amendment of those regulations.
Okay. Any technical questions? Justin?
Are there fees that they're being charged as a result of the current system that would go away conceivably in less than a month?
Correct, the
Yes.
conditional use permit fees. So
Is it-
that was one of the items we discussed with them.
And there's no way that that could potentially be waived or
Unfortunately,
forgiven?
no, because we have to pay for the legal publication costs along with the recording fee. That's what that conditional use fee, it's direct cost to the city.
Sure. Thanks.
We had that exact discussion with them, trying to make sure they understood that that fee could be refunded if they wished to wait till the process was completed.
And to be clear, and they wanted to do it right away?
Correct, they wanted to stay on the agenda and continue to move forward.
Okay.
It's a contractual agreement between them and the contractor, so the applicant didn't feel like he was gonna be able to get his money back.
Anyone else? Okay, I'm not seeing any more technical questions. Go move it to public comment. If the petitioner's here, this would be your time to come up and state your case and add or let us know anything else if you want to. Not seeing anyone here. Anyone else from the public who would like to speak to this item? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. We'll bring it back to the commission then for a motion and discussion.
Make motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion on this item? Okay, I just want to say real quick, I understand you guys tried to talk to them, and it's unfortunate that they fell into this small crack because we're addressing this item tonight. And I'm sure you guys looked at everything as far, like, that I asked about as far as refunding and it's that unfortunate timing part of this that none of us like either, so. But if the petitioner wants to move forward with this, I think we owe them a vote, so with that said, is there any more discussion? Let's call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Okay, we're moving right along here to item number 7. It's a general development plan amendment and specific implementation plan approval for a multifamily development located at southwest corner of Jackson Street and Marion Road. Any site inspections? Okay, and we accept the staff report as part of the record and turn it back over to city staff.
Thank you. So here's the subject site, located at the southwest corner of Jackson Street and Marion Road. It's currently vacant. In 2019, a general development plan was approved for multi-use developments located at Marion Road redevelopment sites H, I, and J. This is site J, and this is just for phase 1 of their development. Aerial shot of the vacant property. Here's their site plan. So the applicant is proposing a 4-story, 74-unit apartment building with a total of 90 bedrooms. The GDP for the site for phase 1 building was for a 5-story multi-use building. So this change to a 4-story multifamily use requires a GDP amendment. Staff is supportive of that GDP amendment as the use is still compatible with the overall approved GDP as well as the 2040 comprehensive land use plan recommendation of Center City. So the site will have a single 2-way access from Marion Road. It will have a total of 90 parking spaces, 56 being surface spaces and 34 underground spaces. The applicant is requesting a BSM for reduction of the parking number. Code would require 172 based on the number of units and bedrooms. The applicant is proposing 90. So the proposed number of parking spaces was actually approved as part of the general development plan. So that GDP included shared parking for sites H, I, and J, totaling 270 spaces for all 3 sites. So staff is supportive of that reduced parking, as each unit will still be provided at least 1 parking space. Also, the site is centrally located, and the area is walkable. The site shows connections to the Riverwalk for the development. Those will require an easement to be drafted with the Winnebago County Register of Deeds. So that will be a condition that they have that easement drafted for those connections to the Riverwalk. Here's the landscaping plan. For building foundation landscaping, they are just 1 point shy of the total requirement. They're also not meeting the 25% requirement for the side facing the public street and 50% requirement along the main entrance of the building. However, staff is supportive of a BSM to allow that reduced building foundation landscaping, as they're only deficient by 1 point, and the increased paved area points they're providing serve to offset that minimal reduction and kind of buffer that building foundation area where it's lacking. Also, the most prominent facade is a waterfront facade, and the staff feels that they're sufficiently landscaping that building foundation for the waterfront facade, so that also serves to offset that BSM. They're more than doubling the total point requirement for paved areas. The one change I'll have to make is adding a tree to the southwest corner or southeast corner of the parking lot to meet that parking row end requirement. There's also a couple of transformer boxes and generator pads shown in parking row ends. Staff would like the applicant to make sure that they have those mechanical equipment areas screened from view with evergreen shrubs or evergreen trees. The applicant is requesting a BSM to defer the street frontage landscaping points to phase 2 of the development. Staff is supportive of this with a condition that if phase 2 is not developed within 3 years, that they add the street frontage landscaping within 3 years. The applicant is requesting a BSM to allow reduced yard landscaping points, and staff is supportive of that reduction, and that's something that was addressed as part of the general development plan, as the site is kind of consistent with a CMU or central mixed use downtown development, which would not require the yard landscaping. So staff is supportive of that reduction in yard landscaping. These plans did not include signage plans, but the applicant has noted that they anticipate their signage to be building mounted signage, and that will need to be compliant with riverfront mixed use signage standards. They're requesting a BSM to allow a temporary construction fencing around the site only during construction. There'll be 6-foot tall chain link fencing with a mesh exterior, and that will include graphics pertaining to the development. So it'll be the same thing that Brio has on their site, which is site H. So it'll match that, and it'll only be there during construction. So staff is supportive of allowing that signage affixed to fencing. Here's the lighting plan, which is deficient on foot candle lighting levels for some of the parking areas. So staff is recommending that they increase that to the minimum 0.4 foot candles, and that can be addressed during the site plan review process. On the left is the proposed light fixtures, which is like a double head cutoff fixtures. Staff is recommending that the applicant revise their lighting plan to utilize ornamental light fixtures, similar to what's used on the Aurora site to the north, as well as the Brio site to the north, and that's to provide consistency for the character of the development area. The building facades, we have the north, east, south, and west elevations. So the Riverfront Overlay District requires 70% Class 1 materials on all facades, and the applicant is proposing to utilize the material that's being passed around right now, which is a ceramic cladding, to be utilized as a Class 1 material to meet that standard. According to the applicant, it's a step up from the Nichia fiber cement cladding that was approved for the Brio site, and it's also more durable than that material. Staff is recommending that Plan Commission analyze the material to determine if it's appropriate to classify it as a Class 1 material. The building facades exceed the 15% minimum window and door area requirements for all facades, and that's required for both ground floor and upper floors. And they're meeting that requirement on all facades with the exception of the west ground floor elevation. And the applicant has noted that glazing reduction is needed to screen the retaining wall, ramp, and mechanical and electrical equipment. So staff is supportive of that BSM to allow that reduction, as the west facade is minimally visible based on surrounding buildings. Also, they are exceeding the 15% Class 1 on all other facades, so that will serve to offset that window reduction on the one ground floor facade. So the Riverfront Overlay District also requires patio or balconies for each unit on the waterfront facades. The applicant is requesting a BSM, as they're not showing patios or decks for all the waterfront units. The applicant has noted that providing a balcony on each unit would create a design challenge by giving the appearance of stacked balconies, and the current design provides for a more aesthetically pleasing pattern on the facade. And also, each unit will have each unit without a balcony will have a 9-foot wide by 8-foot tall window for the living room. So staff is supportive of the proposed BSM, as that the facade will still maintain the desired waterfront connection with the proposed design. Also, the waterfront facade significantly exceeds the glazing requirement of the 15% for both the ground floor and upper floor areas to offset that requested BSM. So with that, staff recommends approval of the General Development Plan Amendment and Specific Implementation Plan with the findings and conditions in your staff report.
Yeah, so just a couple of additional comments to what Brian had for us today. So this ceramic clad is obviously a new product we have not seen before. We've done this several other times with Plan Commission as new products have come out of the market for us to look at as our Class 1. We know our Class 1 materials right now is brick veneer, stone veneer, and glass. There is a durability expectation with our existing Class 1 materials. So over the last couple of years, we've brought you various products that applicants have proposed and asked you to take a look at them and give us your opinion on, do they meet really that intent from a durability standpoint? The applicant, I think they noted like a 50-year warranty on this product, which is similar, a little elevated from the Nichia product that was used on the Brio building. That Nichia product is a fiber cement board that this body in the past, along with council, has recognized as a quality durable product and want to treat as Class 1. So we're asking at this point to take a look at this product, see if you view it in a similar light. Looking at it from a purely staff perspective, it is a little bit thicker of a product than the Nichia. So looking at the documentation provided, what we can find online, it does look to be a durable quality material, but we want this body to weigh in on that.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll go to technical questions, which may have a few. Kathy?
I've got a couple, and since this slide is up, I'll start with this. There are different colors represented there, but I don't see on the main building that there are any different colors.
So it's a bit hard to see on the color renderings.
But there are different
so
some of those shades are used.
So this area is more of the stone looking color. the primary portion of the building, it's really hard because glazing shows up with the same color on a rendering.
Okay.
But obviously the glass and the black niche, or the black ceramic clad product, in real life look considerably different. I know it is hard to kind of differentiate them on the drawing.
Okay, are those other colors, will the main part of the building be clad in this new material that you're talking about?
Correct. The primary cladding on the building, especially the upper floors, would be this ceramic clad product, along with glazing. You're going to have a lot of glass and this
Right,
product.
and that product, those other colors will show up in that product as well? The beiges, the browns?
No, those are other products being used on the building. Can you switch elevations? See if, I think it's on the, and we can have the applicant
Okay,
further
so it's
if-
really sort of gray and gray.
It's a lot, well, this is really black. It's hard
Black,
to see on here, but it is
okay.
a black product.
Okay. Well, that's
But
one
they can
question.
probably
and
point
then-
out a little more. Some of the materials they're showing are on like the balconies, and it's just a little hard to
Yeah,
identify
okay.
on here.
Then I have another question related to the site plan, so I'll wait for somebody else. No?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, that's what so potentially there are going to be 3 more buildings, is that correct?
Correct.
Surrounding the,
Yeah,
parking lot.
two along the east, one on the north.
Okay, and the total number of units will still remain that number that we approved in the general development plan?
If that number changes off of what the GDP had, that would have to be one of the items they address when they come back.
Okay, and I'm somewhat confused about the amount of parking. We're granting a modification for reduced parking here, and I don't see much space to park for 3 more buildings.
Correct. The parking lot is primarily being installed as part of this development. The next request on your agenda is the parking lot that's helping facilitate the parking for this building.
Okay, and there will be enough, obviously, the staff has reviewed it, and there will be enough parking here, there, wherever, to accommodate the 3 new buildings.
So the parking they're proposing is based on the analysis and the discussion that was done during the GDP of a parking at, I'm gonna throw out a number and I hope I'm close, 1.17 spaces per unit was the historical loading rate that they had with similar developments they've done in Iowa and other places in Wisconsin. So they're loading at a ratio of a little over 1 space per unit on full build out.
Okay, all right, those are my questions.
Justin.
Back quite a while ago, there was a lot of excitement for these mixed-use facilities along the river, and it would be a place that people would come and hang out, and there would be, folks living upstairs, and that obviously hasn't happened on that quadrant of riverfront. What happened? Why was the shift from, I think, their initial plan?
And I'll let them address the shift from the 5 to the 4 stories, and they can maybe talk about the other 2 mixed-use buildings planned for the site.
Okay. A couple more. I know recreation requirements aren't necessary for the city. What's the size of these bedrooms? Are they 2s and 3s or 1s and
Let them
defer
talk.
again?
I think
Okay.
It's a lot of studios and some 2s.
It's primarily, singles and 2s.
Okay. So not likely to have a ton of children. I mean, they could be, but probably not. Okay. And then I can ask them about accessibility features and rent range, income qualifications. Is that front lot large enough for something?
Yeah, that is, you're talking this portion?
Yeah.
Yep, it's for townhomes. The plan called for townhomes along that site. So giving almost a residential character feel up to the street.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else with technical questions? Okay, not seeing any, we'll go to the public comment, and if the petitioner's here or developer would like to come up and answer some questions, I think we have some for you.
Hello, my name is Steve Miller. I'm an architect with Slingshot Architecture. And we also have Joy Haneman with Merger Urban Development, the developer. And to discuss the cladding, I also brought Pete Reed, who's the rep for Ceraclad, to answer any technical questions about that. So just to first address your question about the type of materials, The upper volume is primarily that black Ceraclad cladding and windows and glass balconies. And then the whole first floor is either the stone, cast stone, or glazing.
Okay.
Those are the two primary, and then it's accented by, they're aluminum extrusions, but they look like wood, so it warms it up and feels natural, and that's along the riverfront walk-up units, the guardrails there. If you go to the south elevation, yeah. So it looks kind of black because of all the line weight, but it's just dense, right there where the mouse is, dense horizontal slats that look like wood for that guardrail, and then as well as on the right side of that image, there's solar shading that is also that same wood-looking aluminum slats. So that brings some warmth to the design. I'll let Joy talk about the shift from 5 stories to 4. The other question I had was about site lighting. And I don't know if this is something that can be addressed during the site plan submission, but our engineers and the design team had some concerns about the proposed fixtures, or not the ones the staff is proposing that match the Brio site.
So it would be appropriate to have the discussion at this body, sorry, John, to see if this board wants to weigh in on, do they want that consistent site lighting as we have on the development to the north, the parking lot to north in the Brio building, or if they want to treat this site as a little bit of separated from the north side and see a change in fixture style. It was something the staff had heard, and that's why we recommended that it matches for consistency of the redevelopment area. But obviously this body has one of the voices in the room and can make a recommendation on if they want to see that consistent site lighting or if they're open to the change to the fixtures you're proposing.
I brought a handout, or is that?
Yep, I can help you with it.
Just about the lighting.
Here you go, John. You guys can share a little bit after you're ready.
Thanks.
There's 2 more
We
here.
got enough.
Okay, thank you.
I've got plenty.
Thank you.
So, with site H, where the Brio building is, that was an existing parking lot, and so we were matching the parking lot light fixtures there, so it didn't really make sense to propose something different, because it was part of that larger development with the medical building to the south. But as far as the larger area, there is a mix. The second page shows kind of the mix of fixtures that are currently in the area. It's kind of a mix of nautical and historic and contemporary fixtures. But what we're arguing is that for this site, at full build out, the interior of the parking lot will be really screened by buildings, and it creates a kind of, it doesn't feel like it's part of the site H site as much as it's almost more next door, the Anthem building, which has different light fixtures. So there's additional technical reasons that the Acorn fixtures don't meet the Wisconsin energy code requirements to dim at night. So they're a little bit more energy intensive, as well as if to get to the foot candle requirements, we would have to line the perimeter of the site, which would spill over on the property line. So we're willing to look at a different fixture if that one is too contemporary or something. And the third page on the handout is some potential fixtures that kind of bridge the gap, as well as if on the second page, the one in the bottom right, we'd be open to matching something like that, and that's right next door. And that has, there's more light control with that fixture as well. So I don't know, it's not, we don't have obviously we could proceed with the one that's in the plan now, but we're open to exploring other options and just wanted to bring that up for consideration.
Okay, anybody have any questions? No, I have one. I'll go last.
Which one of these are you recommending?
Well, any of the ones on the back.
Any of the ones on the back, okay.
And then also, there's an existing fixture next door is the bottom right of the second page.
Okay.
We'd be open to that as well, something to match that.
That you're saying if you don't go with
Right. I mean, that's kind of our first preference, but.
what's up there right now on the top left?
Thank you.
Okay, Justin?
Can you talk a little bit about the units themselves? Over the accessibility features that you're incorporating, what the rent range you're anticipating are. Will there be income qualifications or any set-aside units for a diverse income population? And then just a general idea of what the bedroom composition is.
Yeah, I'll let Joy talk about, address most of those issues, but as far as the accessible units, we have 2 Type A units, which are fully accessible, and then the rest of the units are Type B, which are accessible but not as thoroughly as the Type A. And the Type A have roll-in showers and all the clearances required for someone in a wheelchair. There's an elevator in the building. But I can talk about the unit mix and reasonings for going from 5 to 4 stories.
Sure. Thank you.
Also, if you have questions about the cladding, Pete would be happy to talk about those as well.
Anything else? Anyone else? Questions? Okay, I just wanted to ask you, the fixtures that you're proposing with this, would those be consistent with all of the other developments as well in this area? When you develop those areas, are you going to keep the same type fixtures within all of them in this area?
So for Site J, we were proposing just that one, and it would be, so whichever one we choose, we would be consistent throughout the whole site for that. For Site I, because it's so close to Site H, we were proposing to just go with the acorn fixtures that staff was recommending.
Okay. And when you were explaining this, you were basically saying that the parking lot lights, which are the tall Ts, right? If I'm
Yeah.
correct? Those are going to be different than the ones that would be basically like the exterior lights, which would be the outside, more the outside of the property, correct?
There's the same fixture there's a double head like you're seeing, and then there's also one that's just one directional. So if it's on the edge of a site, it would just be one-sided
Inward.
instead of two-sided.
Right. But I guess what I'm saying is like, you know, if you're proposing that for the parking lot, correct?
Yes.
Just for the parking lot for those.
Yes. There's also bollard lighting and shorter pedestrian scale lighting.
Right. Okay. I just was making sure that I was understanding everything correctly, that the only place that these Ts or Ls, if they're on the edge, would be in that parking area.
I think so.
Because I think that's part of what city staff was getting at. Am I wrong in that, or you know, if it's contained in one area,
So
inside.
Staff was looking at the perspective of consistency in the area, and I understand. And right now they're deficiently lit, so they do have to increase it. So
Right.
there is going to be some lighting changes to the plan, regardless of what light fixture is gone. I can appreciate the concern with efficiency. That is something I wasn't aware of with the prior Acorn style, but it does make sense. And I agree with the light spillage. It's much harder to contain your light trespass with an open globe fixture as opposed to cutoff lighting. And this being separated to the south, I like that they came back with some alternatives that are meeting us in the middle. They're staying kind of true to the character of the area, without being quite as, you know, maybe modern looking as the initial fixture. So, you know, from a staff perspective, I would encourage Planning Commission and the applicant to consider one of these alternative options that achieves hopefully still achieves their needs, but still matches the character of the area a little bit more.
Any other questions for the applicant? And you said there was someone else here also to
Yeah,
speak?
to Joy as well as Pete. Pete who's-
Trying to keep it moving.
My name is Joy Hahnemann. Do you need my address?
Yes, please.
1228 Brunette Downs Drive, Madison, Wisconsin. Merge Urban Development Group. So the first question I'll address is just the unit mix. So a lot like Brio, we have 18 studios, 33 one-bedrooms. We have 7 waterfront walk-ups. Those units are very unique with their own individual like walk-up patio, and they also they're 1 bedroom plus a den. So it has a flex space that we intend to furnish with a Murphy bed to really create some flexibility for an office use or a guest room, that type of thing. And then we have 16 2-bedrooms. None of these are low-income housing tax credit or anything like that. There aren't set-asides for low income, but our unit mix is designed really to appeal to individuals that are young professionals and are able to afford or attain the studio units, the 1-bedrooms. We really try to design a really efficient unit, and Slingshot is as a credit to their skill in this type of housing. Why we switched from 4 to 5 stories and there isn't retail in this building is a really good question. This is absolutely a project that we're very excited about, creating the fulcrum of retail activity on this site, and it is certainly the right site for it. This building is a little bit of a COVID baby, where we were really trying to future-proof the retail and really generate the density to support new retail as it was designed in the thick of COVID. The 4-story structure is the most efficient way for us to get that density, and we believe it's it's going to create the density in the neighborhood for that retail to really be successful. In addition to that, we've oriented the fitness room and some community space to the corridor, the retail corridor that will face the future retail on the waterfront. So the uses are still going to be very active in nature and open windows. You'll see the activity. You'll see the, kind of more of a commercial use on that corner facing the future retail. It was a product of timing too. We have obligations under our development agreement with the city to generate this new increment in the district. So this helped us to stay on track. What other questions? Parking. One thing that I'm excited to report is based on our leasing activity at Brio, we are tracking right around around 1-to-1. Similar unit mix, 1 car per unit leased. And that's a product of the unit mix for one. And also we have some studio units that aren't bringing a vehicle or leasing because they have an alternative parking spot at work or something along those lines. And then some of our 2-bedrooms are using 2 parking spaces. But we're excited to see that use is tracking 1-to-1. What other questions were there?
Justin.
Follow up the parking. Can you describe, I know we're talking about the southwest development at current, but where do you see parking for the other spots? Where do people park with the townhomes or built-in garages? Like, this seems to make sense here, but it seems like you may be limited for parking at the future developments here.
So Site I is going to have a lot of parking. We'll see that in the next discussion item. How many stalls is it exactly? An additional 90 stalls, approximately. So the general development plan has townhomes that would nearly face each other on Site I and Site J, and then behind I and in between the townhomes and the water tower is access parking.
Got it.
Thank you.
Any other?
One thing the code also has is a ratio for commercial to residential parking requirements, where we talk about how you have, you don't have overlapping times necessarily of parking needs. You have that ebb and flow between high daytime parking for commercial and during the day, and then evening residential parking. So it does help balance that. We also are in the parking overlay area where commercial businesses are not required to provide parking, only residential units are. So similar, if you were building on Main Street or somewhere in the downtown, your commercial spaces required 0 parking. You're only required to provide parking for residential units.
Any other questions while we have her up here? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wants to speak to this item? Come on down.
Yeah, while he's coming up, one other note, and I believe Joy did reference it, there is a developer's agreement related with this site that the council had approved for some financing incentives, and there are hard targets of when these buildings have to take place in a specific order. So that is one of the factors that plays into kind of the orderly development for the area.
Main thing, handouts.
State your name for the record, please.
My name is Pete Reed. I am the Ceraclad rep for Wisconsin. I'm from Mount Horeb and cover the whole state. I represent 9 lines of exterior cladding products, this being one. And so just to briefly let you know what you're looking at there, kind of a short version of technical portions of the product literature, but the main thing I wanted to get across, the back pages are, you can fan through, and it really just gives some gravity to this product. This product started about 4 years ago in Japan, around the same time that Nichiha was created in Japan. They are competitor products, and as Mr. Lyons stated, Ceraclad is a step up. The biggest difference that you will see in the specs and everything else is really the ceramic finish. That's what makes Ceraclad different. They're the only ones that have that. You might know from the flooring industry, the engineered flooring you might put in your house, if it has a ceramic coating, it's very tough, lasts a long time. But in addition to that, the coating is very fade resistant also. And so Ceraclad has a 50-year warranty structurally with the panel, a 20-year warranty on the finish, which includes fade, whereas Nichiha is 15. So, and they do not cover color fading. It really, that's the main difference in the product. The architects like it primarily because of the various looks that you can achieve with these products. Fiber cement, the medium density fiber cement that Ceraclad and Nichiha are both in that category, they're essentially extruded concrete sheets. So it'd be no different than making brick or any other concrete masonry unit where they have a big slurry of cementitious stuff, they squeeze it out through a mold, and they have a shape to it. And again, 40 years ago, somebody decided, why have little bricks that take forever when you can have sheets that you can hang? But essentially, it's a cementitious sheet. One other difference with Ceraclad is you might have noticed when the sample was passed around, it has some little voids. They figured out how to do that to make it lighter without losing the strength. Is there any other questions? I'm happy to. They've been used on a lot of very big, expensive projects across the United States. Whoops, they are loud when you drop them.
Probably don't feel good either.
And so they are trusted. And they've been in the United States now for just over 20 years. Mostly starting on the West Coast, moving their way east. The pictures that I put in the packet are mostly multifamilies, a few hospitalities.
Hey, do we have any questions while we have them here? If anybody has any questions about the materials.
Just, I'm not sure it's for you. A lot of your pictures, very attractive buildings, and they have quite significant contrast of colors present, and it seems, at least from what you selected, to be the norm, which is, again, you were saying it's hard to really gauge what this building will look like from that picture, but this one in particular has an image, at least from here, of black, which is not, necessarily consistent with what a lot of these look like. Is there a particular reason why this specific one is just going to go straight across the same, blanket color for the whole building versus, even the Courtyard by Marriott has a couple different contrasting colors. The apartment has maybe 4 different colors. And I just may not be seeing it in this image, right?
I know. I wish we could. We have a couple renderings. Would you be able to navigate to Merge's website? I think it gives a much better impression of what it'll really look like.
Urban development. Portfolio, where would you like me to go?
So, I mean, we looked a lot at the historical precedent along the river, and with the Brio building was a lot about the kind of geologic history of the site and the Niagara escarpment and these stone formations. And this site is kind of conceived of along the same veins, where that base is like the rock base, and then there was a lot of wood buildings, just like kind of warehouse wood buildings along the river. And the lumber industry was really important to Oshkosh, particularly along the river. So we were really drawn to this sort of simplicity of these historic wood structures, which is why we chose the wood grain black cladding that we saw in a lot of these historic photos. My personal opinion about the color is that a lot of those buildings are going to feel very like 2010 or whatever. It feels very much like a trend, where I feel like what we're trying to achieve is something a little bit more timeless and not as trendy, but it's probably a matter of personal opinion. But. Oh yeah, there's another picture down.
No, it shows the wood a lot better.
Is there more down lower?
No, sorry.
Okay. Nope. That's,
So does it show the other phases then, the next image?
yeah, that's what you're seeing is
But I mean, go to the next picture. There.
yeah.
So those are townhomes along Marion and then more apartments on.
Homes, and then these are mixed-use buildings. And similarly, for the next site we're going to talk about, this is the townhomes with parking behind it. This is the food co-op Brio building.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Do we have any more questions? Thank you very much. Very informational, especially seeing the pictures on the website. Get to see the wood on there. Okay, is there anybody else from the public who would like to speak on this item? Okay. Not seeing anybody, I guess we'll bring it back to the commission for motion and further discussion.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion on this item? Mr. Ford?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm good with any of these alternative lighting that they suggested. I think they all look fine. I'm good with the alternative materials as well, classifying those class 1, and maybe longer term, something to think about is whether or not our code is still working in that regard, or whether is it more efficient to have these new materials come up one by one to this body, or to build that flexibility into the code. But that's a discussion for another day.
Anybody? Done?
I agree with Mr. Ford that the lights, the alternative lights are very appropriate. I actually feel that the traditional lights do not match this development at all, as much as you feel the modern lights do not match the development, and so the alternatives would be very good. And the material is very strong. Porcelain, what you appreciate about porcelain is you get a nick, something like that, you see the same color all the way through. So there's, it's a very consistent product, and it's used for a lot of things.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I just know that we you know there's other architects in the community and local folks who are considerably more qualified at gauging the integrity and I don't know, appropriateness of a product. It would be something to consider that materials be submitted ahead of time, and I don't know if there's an ability to have a not a subcommittee necessarily, but some sort of group or panel of local developers, builders, contractors, architects, engineers that could provide kind of on the spot within a week or 2 weeks just feedback on the integrity of a particular product. Not necessarily something that's going to take place with this. That I think looks fine. I appreciate a lot of the things that they're doing here. I appreciate the incorporation of some of the accessibility features that service somebody that may be in a wheelchair. I appreciate the underground parking. I like to see that, and in general, not a big fan of very restrictive parking requirements anyways, so the change in parking is not an issue to me. As always, I love these nice new developments, and they often unfortunately exclude folks that may not have a financial means. And what you end up having is a consolidation of wealth that doesn't provide any sort of diversity. But understand that's a difficult thing to do and isn't always practical. So in general, great looking building, and I'm excited to see it move forward.
Okay, anybody else? Kathy?
I'm with Justin. I'm not qualified to recommend which is the appropriate lighting fixture. And I'm taking people's word for the fact that this is a good material. So lighting is up to somebody else.
Okay, and I guess I just like to say, I'm guessing when items like this, the materials like this come before us, city staff is looking extensively at it. You're doing a lot of research into the product. You're finding out where it's being used and how it like, and so on and so forth. So it's not like it's coming before us with nobody having a clue or us making the final decision. They're kind of guiding our decisions. So I just not to discount what you were saying about forming a commission on it, but we do have city staff performing kind of that thing, and you just have to ask us for permission, basically.
Yeah, I think twofold. I like the idea if we can get
it would be awesome.
A set of local architects that can weigh in. The product isn't dissimilar to a lot of stuff they're proposing on their buildings. So that's kind of where staff got some comfort level with the product. And it being in that similar category to the niche or even a little higher end, because we've had that discussion, that product's been vetted. We're by no means the experts either, so we do some research, we look into the warranty information. But I think it's a good point if we do that.
If we can herd the cats.
Yeah,
because getting them together to agree on.
Very much so. But, making it to this point, it is a product staff is relatively comfortable with, but it's new. So we do, I think it's relevant to have that discussion with this board.
And Justin, I wasn't trying to poo-poo the idea at all. I was just saying, I know the difficulty of trying to get a group of developers together to agree on anything. We've seen it with this board over the years, so. But with that said, I'm for any of those other proposed light fixtures as well. I just want to make sure that the entire site is going to be cohesive, and I can't imagine that that wouldn't be with all the thought that they've put into this. So I'll definitely be supporting this. Anybody else? One last chance. Okay, let's call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Coolabali?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop? Aye. Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Okay, move on to item number 8. A little bit more on similar part of this. Specific implementation plan approval for a parking lot located at north side of Marion Road, west of Jackson Street. Do we have any site inspections of this one? Well, I guess I was in the area, so. Okay, and we accept the staff report as part of the record. Turn it over to Brian.
Thank you. So this site is immediately northwest across Marion Road of the previous item. So it's part of the same GDP, and it's the site I that we had been discussing. So the approved GDP was for 9 two-story townhome units and a service parking lot. Here's the aerial view, currently a vacant lot. So you can see buildings 1, 2, and 3 are the future townhomes, but at this point, the applicant is just requesting the approval of the surface parking lot. It'll have 67 stalls. They're proposing to construct it prior to the townhomes to utilize that parking lot for the Site J tenants, as their on-site parking may not be accessible due to construction phasing. So the site will utilize a shared access drive with the Aurora site to the east, right here. And the parking lot will be located to the north of the townhome buildings fronting Marion Road. So here's the landscape plan. So they are meeting paved area point requirements. However, they are missing, I believe, 1 parking row end tree at the northwest corner of the parking lot, I think in here. So other than that, they're meeting paved area requirements, just adding that tree as part of site plan review. With this development as well, they are proposing to defer that street frontage landscaping to phase 2 of the development. And again, staff is recommending with this one to have a condition that street frontage landscaping be provided within 3 years if those townhomes are not yet being developed. The applicant is not proposing any signage as part of this request, other than the temporary construction fencing, the same as the previous item. So that's just 6-foot tall chain link fencing with a mesh signage exterior. So staff is supportive of that, BSM to allow that during construction. So for this site, they are proposing fixtures to match the Aurora site and the Brio site. And as with the last one, they will need to increase their lighting in some areas of the parking lot to that 0.4 foot candle minimum lighting level. Again, they're matching the light fixture, so staff is supportive of this lighting plan, but just needing to increase some of that lighting in the parking lot. And with that, staff recommends approval of the SIP with the findings and conditions in your staff report.
Okay, thank you. Any technical questions? John?
Are they meeting the stormwater management uses? Is there going to need to be on, like storm basins or anything on there? Are we?
So I don't know if they've submitted their full final stormwater management plan, but they will have to meet the city's standards for redevelopment for stormwater management. I see Mr. Garrick in the back if his staff's had a chance to look at this one yet.
And are they doing anything within the parking lot itself for stormwater management?
Justin, do you recall what the plan is for storm management on this one?
I just see all the development and all the different sites, and I'm like, okay, where are we gonna have our stormwater relieving space for that in any of these sites?
Specifically, no, I don't remember what was being planned for this site. I think this is also part of the redevelopment, so there is probably some cross access with both east and north. So there's some of it I believe already accounted for in there, and then we'll have to take care of anything they see outside of that.
We can ask the developer too. They may already have established what their final stormwater management system may be if it's underground.
Any other technical questions, or well, we have city staff up here? Okay, seeing none, we'll open this up to the public then, and if the petitioner would like to make a statement, this would be the time to, or answer maybe the question about the stormwater.
Not the civil engineer, but I believe the way Site H is there, some of the parking lot islands and next to the parking lot, the landscaped areas are like bioswales to filter the water before it's diverted to the storm system. That's kind of the extent of my knowledge, though.
That's more than we had, thank you. Anybody else from the public here to speak to this item? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. We'll come back to the commission for a motion and discussion.
Move to adopt finding a recommendation as stated in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion on this item? Justin?
Just question, is there any sort of time frame requirement on the development of the outlots?
Correct. All three of these sites have timing requirements within the development agreement. I believe this is the last of the sites to be developed. I don't remember what year.
You're okay, so let's just hypothetically, the parking lot goes in next year or this summer or something, crazy fast, I don't know. But then within 3 years or 2 years, whatever it is, then those townhomes would have to be developed, or that's the plan?
Correct.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Not seeing anyone. Let's call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Okay, moving right along to item 9. Specific implementation plan, plan of commercial development at north side of 1700 block Oshkosh Avenue. Any site inspections?
Kathy, Mr. Ford, Mr. Perry, Mr. Kiefer.
Okay, you got everyone? Okay, we accept the staff report as part of the record. Ryan, take us away.
Thank you. So the subject site is located on the north side of Oshkosh Avenue within the corporate business park area. Currently a vacant lot. The site is being proposed to be developed with a drive-through restaurant building on a newly created interior lot. These plans were discussed at a Plan Commission workshop back in April. Plan Commission voiced support for the proposed use, provided the site is located on an interior lot. So they're proposing to have a CSN that will create this lot, being an interior lot for the site with no street frontage. The site will be accessed from the existing hotel driveway to the north. Of 2 accesses to the site, kind of going in a circle with the drive-through on the west side of the building, and then wrapping around the building to the parking lot, which will have 11 stalls. The applicant has also added a patio area in front of the building, between the front of the building and the drive-through. So the applicant is requesting a BSM to have reduced drive-through stacking length to 70 feet in front of the order station, where code requires 100 feet. Staff is supportive of that BSM, as they will have 2 drive-through lanes leading to that order station, so they will still have the minimum length needed for the stacking for the vehicles. They're also requesting a BSM for the dumpster enclosure concrete pad. It's within the 25-foot rear setback. Staff is also supportive of a BSM for that, as it's the rear of it is the shared access drive, so it should not have any negative impact on neighboring properties. Here's the landscaping plan. It is meeting paved area landscaping points. It will need to have a couple of trees added for the parking or drive aisle end trees, kind of where it meets the drive aisle. So the applicant will need to add those to meet the paved area requirement. They are meeting the points requirement for the street frontage. However, they are under the 50% medium tree requirement, but they can meet that by substituting 1 or 2 of the tall trees shown for medium trees. Staff is also recommending a condition that 165 evergreen tree landscaping points be provided in front of the drive-through lane to provide a year-round visual buffer from that drive-through lane from Oshkosh Avenue. The applicant is providing 4 Black Hills spruce trees, which will meet that requirement. The yard landscaping points are shown to be met on the provided landscape plan. However, they are showing perennial plantings meeting that, which have been overcalculated. So they will need to reallocate points from other landscaping categories to meet that requirement or substitute those perennials for shrubs. Here are the signage plans. So the applicant will be utilizing shared ground signage on the North Westfield intersection as well as to the west along North Kohler Street. And that's something that was approved as part of the general development plan. So staff is recommending that they only have ground signage with those shared existing signage sites. Wall signage shown here will be on the east and south elevations. So this is the east here showing wall signage. A logo here, and then the front south elevation showing wall signage as well. The wall signage does appear to be within the maximum signage area of 1 square foot per linear foot of building frontage, and not to exceed 15% of the wall area. So here are renderings of the buildings. We're missing the site lighting plan, but it is meeting the 0.5 foot candle maximum at the property lines and the 0.4 foot candles for the parking stalls and drive aisles. For the building facades, they are providing 100% Class 1 materials, so they're exceeding that 75% minimum, so it'll be entirely brick on all facades. They are requesting a base standard modification for reduced ground level window area on the front facade. The code requires 40%, and they are proposing 37% window area and door area on that front facade. So staff feels that they've offset that BSM with the additional Class 1 materials provided. And the proposed elevations are also meeting the building composition requirement for the corporate business park by utilizing canopies, soldier course banding, and projections, as well as the entrance patio. So with that, staff recommends approval of the specific implementation plan with the findings and conditions in your staff report.
Just one kind of last comment. I do want to really thank the applicant on this one. We met twice with workshops, numerous times with the applicant going through this project, and they've really kept pushing it forward and really helped make what I believe is a very good end building and site layout after all the discussions we've had. So I just, thanks for their participation and continued work on this site.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, technical questions. Do we have any technical questions from commission? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so we'll open up public comment, and if the petitioner is here, it's your time to make a statement.
I'm James Burkhart with Excel Engineering, 100 Camelot Drive, Fond du Lac. Just here to answer questions if you have them. I'm the architectural designer, and we have Ben with our civil department as well. So,
okay. Anyone on the commission have any questions or? Wow, everything's unusually.
And they did a good job.
Everything's unusually quiet today. Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on this item? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone, so we'll bring it back to the commission for motion and discussion.
Make a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We have any discussions or comments? Tom?
So I'd like to, the board is well aware of my disdain for visible drive-throughs and front-facing drive-throughs. However, the applicant benefits from being first in this area, and so other developers are going to have to be more scrutinized by me, of course. But I do really appreciate and want to go on the record as saying that they have done everything that we have asked them to do, and really appreciate them working with us to get a quality building placed here in the city, so.
Anyone else? I'd just like to say, I agree with Tom on that. Going over and above on the class 1 materials, I'll tell you what, we've heard from those of us who've been here long enough, we've heard from all the places who have come in here complaining about our requirements for class 1, requirements for class 1. Now we have a place that comes in and says, you know what, we're just putting 100% in. So they've just kind of set the standard for anybody who comes after them, I think, because we've been a little bit lenient with people, and they're coming in and saying, you know what, we can do it. So just want to say bravo to everybody involved with this, including us on this commission, because we've had a lot of discussions on this, and I think the feedback and the back and forth has turned out something that we can all be proud of. So, anybody else? Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Okay, fellow plant commissioners, just to make you guys aware, there's been a little bit of a snafu here, so we're going to go with 11, and then we're going to go back to 10. So if everybody's following along with your agendas, we're going to present 11 first.
I apologize. We put them on the wrong order. We need to handle the zone change element before we get into the GDPs. So
With that said, public hearing, zone change from urban mixed use district, UMU, and urban mixed use district with a planned development overlay, UMUPD, to institutional district with a planned development overlay, IPD, for properties located at the northwest corner of CP Avenue and Broad Street. Any site inspections? Can't raise my hand on this one.
Perry, Rob, Kiefer, Ford, and
I'm gonna step aside from this discussion, just, so if we have a fill-in, I believe, right?
yep, we have sufficient members.
Great. You want me to leave the table if I'm, okay.
Turn your chair around.
Yeah. In the corner.
Okay, we'll accept the staff report as part of the record. Brian, turn it over to you again.
Thank you. So this subject site consists of 2 parcels. One is a vacant commercial parcel, and one is a vacant residential parcel, and they have frontage on CP Ave, Broad Street, and Otter Ave. So the applicant is requesting a zone change to have both subject properties rezoned to institutional with a planned development overlay. The applicant has submitted preliminary plans for development of a day-by-day warming shelter, which is considered an indoor institutional land use, which is not permitted in the current urban mixed-use district, and is conditional within the institutional district as they're proposing to have it changed to. The plans will be addressed as part of the GDP request and CUP request, which is the following item. And this item was discussed at a plan commission workshop as well as a neighborhood meeting, and both had voiced support for the plans. So staff is supportive of the proposed zone change. It is consistent with the institutional districts in the surrounding area, kind of shown in blue. And it's also compatible with surrounding institutional, commercial, and high-density residential land uses, and also consistent with the 2040 comprehensive land use plan recommendation of Center City. So staff is supportive of the zone change to institutional with a planned development overlay.
Okay, thank you. We'll come to the commission with technical questions, and just to remind everybody, we are taking another kick at the general development plan after this, so this is just for zoning, so let's stay on point. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, for city staff, can you give an example of the types of developments that could go in an urban mixed use, the current zoning?
So urban mixed use is more of commercial type development.
Okay.
Urban mixed use is kind of it's one of our 2 center city urban style mixed use development districts. So office, retail, commercial, upper floor housing would be traditional UMU style.
Okay, and what type of institutional use? What are some examples?
So institutional uses are things more of government related, libraries, museums, schools, parks, service organizations, Boys and Girls Club, day-by-day warm shelter type of uses are the institutional type uses.
Awesome, thank you.
Does this include that little square that's?
Correct.
Yes,
Yep.
part of the request.
That is included, okay.
What is next?
Can we wait?
I'm sorry.
I let John get away with it. Go ahead.
To the left of the square, what is that?
To the west of the site is Court Tower. It's
No. The square that is
Oh.
on Broad Street that we're
This one?
proposing to change, what's to the left?
This one?
There's a building right there.
415.
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back. We can look at street view. I don't remember if it's a house.
I believe it's existing residential.
Let's take a look. So it does appear to be residential structure.
Any other questions? Technical questions? Open it up for public comment.
Greetings, Commission. I want to thank you.
Just please state your name and
Oh,
address
I'm
for the
sorry.
record.
My name's Keith Wirch. My wife Amanda Wirch. You can come on up, dear. We're at 402 Otter Avenue, just across the street. We got the notice in the mail. Want to thank you for your time. We've never been to one of these, so it's great to kind of meet some of you. To introduce ourselves real quick, and I believe that's a little bit important to see where we come from. We both moved here from Minneapolis about a year and a half ago, March 2020. Great time to move, COVID and all that. But we lived here. We moved away from 10 years. It's great to come back. You guys have done great things with the city. I'd like to introduce you to our neighborhood a little bit. We've got a railroad that sits right there, an amphitheater just a block away, significant, very large court towers, low-income housing, and the fire department is great as well. In our time at Minneapolis, we had multiple negative interactions with the homeless population, such as harassment, miscellaneous crime, panhandling, and such. The addition of this shelter, in our opinion, will cause excessive loitering as the population waits for it to open. This will cause an unsafe environment for my family, such as my wife, who regularly walks the dog in the morning and before sundown. Court Towers residents as well frequently enjoy the use and comfortable to walk around our neighborhood. I understand that there's a need to assist the homeless population here. I frequently go down to Riverside Park. I see them there as well. I see the tents, and I see the need, absolutely. I do not enjoy being the not in my yard group of our neighborhood. We've made accommodations to live with the railroad nearby, reaching out to our new neighbors over at Court Towers who cycle in and out. They've been great to us. We also rejoice with the city when the amphitheater's bumping. We all love of that time. But the addition of this is another burden onto our neighborhood, and I ask that you at least consider that as you make this zoning change decision. And I'll open up to my wife.
Yes, again, my name is Amanda Wirch, 402 Otter Avenue, just across the street. Never been to one of these, but I'm glad to be here. This is in reference to the suggested zoning change in allowance for the warming shelter to take place. I know that there was note that the neighborhood association had voiced support for this. What I received as far as this regarding the neighborhood association was that the core leadership had met with the warming shelter. As a neighborhood association member, based on my location, I never got like a letter in the mail saying that they were going to be talking about this, something like this specifically. So I think it's at least slightly not intentionally misleading, but maybe just stretched to say that the neighborhood as a whole has supported this. Some of us who are across the street do not support it, including some who aren't maybe comfortable getting up to stand here. So I just have a couple of things that I just think should be taken into consideration. One thing is I think that there does need to be a little bit more discussion with the neighborhoods. The house that you're looking at there, those people who live there didn't even get notification because they rent. So they are going to have to live next to a property that they have no knowledge of what it's going to become. So I think you should take that into account. And a lot of the area residents do rent. We do not, we own, but a lot of the area residents do rent. And if their landlord doesn't let them know about this change, they have no idea. So I think that's important to note. In the report, it says this is to be an overnight only shelter. My concern with that is that you're potentially forcing a population who may or may not leave the area during the day back out onto the street. So it'd be one thing if there were services being provided all day, which I'm not aware of because the report doesn't really specify, and supervision provided all day, whether it be maybe a mental health officer or someone to that like. But if you do not have that provided, if the shelter is not providing that, then I think it's important to realize that this is going to cause potential interaction in the neighborhood between people who maybe aren't familiar with the mental health needs or some of the needs of the homeless population. The homeless population statistically has mental needs issues a lot of times. That's a lot of what makes it hard to help them stay employed and help them stay in homes. So if there isn't going to be supervision and services provided all day, then I think you are allowing just for some possible interactions that aren't going to be positive within the neighborhood and with the needs of the homeless population. And I'm just wanting the city to at least take into consideration maybe a little bit more information from what's going to be happening at the warming shelter, who's going to be taking responsibility and going to be taking care of these individuals' needs both day and night, if it's just going to be an overnight shelter, and then to make sure that the majority of the neighborhood is actually notified. Renters specifically, I don't know if any of the people in Court Towers got any notification because I don't own their property either. And so I just think it's important to know who's going to take some responsibility for just the potential change in dynamic in the neighborhood if this is something you're hoping to move forward with. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a question for them, Kathy? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry. Don't mind me.
Well, I appreciate your concerns, and we're a friendly board. So people come and they're nervous, and we understand that. I'm sorry that in a way, by our procedure, we're doing this in the right order. Do the zone change first, and then the building itself. Because we need to hear your questions raised. You raised a lot of questions that the next item will address. And I hope there's somebody here that will sufficiently address those remarks. So I'm sorry that the cart is before the horse on this. But personally, I'm hoping that this is something that will work out for the neighborhood and for the homeless. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Okay, we have anyone else from the public here to speak on this item? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. We'll come back to the Plan Commission and look for a motion and some discussion, possibly.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion on this item now? Mr. Ford?
I'll just say, speaking to the zone change specifically, given that it's consistent with the long-term plans in the city and with other uses in the area, I'm fine with it.
I already made my statement.
Okay, and with that said, as far as staffing goes, I believe when they came through in workshop, one of the things that they had talked to us about was the definite staffing that they were going to have at this place. And I'm sure we'll be addressing more of that in the next item. I just wanted to at least put that out there, that that's something that has been talked about, just to kind of at least let you know that where we're going. So, okay, with that said, anybody else? Call the roll.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, now we circle back to item number 10 on your agenda, if you're following along at home. And this is a general development plan and conditional use permit request for an indoor institutional use at the northwest corner of CP Avenue and Broad Street. Site inspections. Everybody? Okay, and we accept the staff report as part of the record. Turn it over to city staff.
Thank you. So this is the same subject site as the previous item. Again, the applicant is proposing a day-by-day warming shelter, and here's the conceptual plan that they had given for the GDP request, which includes a single-story warming shelter and will provide a overnight accommodation for local homeless population for up to 50 to 60 guests per night. The site will have a 16 stall parking lot for employees and guest parking, kind of with a one-way path through the parking lot. With the approval of the rezone, the applicant would have the ability to request a conditional use permit for the proposed indoor institutional development. The proposed plan will require base standard modifications for reduced setbacks along Otter Ave and CP Ave, as the code requires be a 30-foot setback and 25-foot setbacks that they're protruding into. They'd also need a BSM for the impervious surface ratio, most likely, as it looks like it's more than the maximum of 60% for the institutional district. Staff is supportive of the GDP as the site layout is generally compatible with the surrounding relatively high-density urban area. Staff is recommending that all needed BSMs be addressed as part of the SIP review. Staff is also supportive of the request for a CUP as the proposed indoor institutional use is consistent with surrounding institutional and high-density residential land uses. The rendering is shown here. It does show a monument sign along the CPA frontage. It appears to meet dimensional requirements, but final signage plans will need to be addressed during the SIP request. Landscaping and lighting plans have not been included. That would also be addressed during the SIP request. So the building exterior, as shown, would be a combination of masonry and siding, and the final building elevations would also be addressed during the SIP request. So staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit and and general development plan with a condition that the BSMs be addressed as part of the SIP approval.
Yeah, so as Brian mentioned, today we really want to focus on the land use. So don't change the first element. Second element is the GDP and the conditional use permits that establishes land use, with final form and function coming back to this body and council at a later date.
Okay, thank you, Mark. That opened up technical questions. Any technical questions for city staff?
And I believe the applicants hopefully can address a little bit of the question about daytime, nighttime services and what's all taking place.
Okay, not seeing any technical questions, we'll move on to public comment, and if our petitioners are here, we'd like to have them come up and.
I'm not the petitioner, but I'm also a member of the neighborhood. Courtney Sullivan, 406 Otter Avenue.
Thank you.
I just want to touch base on some things that my neighbors said. So, actually, it's a question, I guess. Where are we heading with this neighborhood? Like, are we headed towards more industrial or not residential?
So this is a site that's long been owned by the housing authority. So the expectation for this property was always for it to develop in a non-residential, or if it was residential and assisted income-based type of facility. That has no impact on the broader character of the area. The expectation is that we still encourage a viable, active neighborhood organization for the remainder of it.
Okay, well, this looks very institutional. So if you want to like keep that vibe, wouldn't you want it something that like fits with the character of the neighborhood?
We can let the applicants kind of address the reasoning for the look of the building.
Okay, well, also, I've had nothing but really negative experience when living close to a homeless shelter. I've already found, because there are homeless and there is a increased drug activity, yes, that comes with the homeless, that's along with mental health issues and everything like that. But I have found drug paraphernalia outside my home, in my yard. And they're already there doing these things as it is now. I have young children. I mean, we play outside. I can't, my kid finds a syringe on the ground. What am I supposed to say? I mean, it's insane. Yes, I chose to live in this neighborhood, but I didn't choose to find these things or have, people loitering around the area, and I can't, they're down by the leach, they're there during the day. And this doesn't, to me, unless it's an open all-day thing, which I guess it was an overnight one, that still doesn't help what's happening during the day. Like, yeah, this is great. They should have a place to go. I see that. But, and I'm sorry if my disposition is sort of angry about this, but I'm kind of angry about it because it's just like, it's not really helping much, I don't think. Just because there is a lack of information. We, as homeowners, didn't get a letter in the mail saying that there was going to be a public meeting about this or anything. We just got a letter from the neighborhood association 2 days before we got the letter from the city saying that there was a meeting on it about how they met with the core team, and I don't even know who the core team is. I've lived in River East for going on, it'll be the 4th year now, and I think I've gotten 2 letters in the mail about a neighborhood meeting. They knock on my doors at all crazy hours saying that they're, passing out flyers, but I just feel like that the neighborhood should have a little bit more information before it's brought to the city as something that, should happen. Like, as my neighbor said, the renters around the area weren't even notified. I feel like they should have a say too. I also want to know if this is going to decrease my property value and my resale value of my home with having things rezoned. Is there going to be an increased police presence because this is a homeless shelter? And along with that, unfortunately, does come with more crime. I mean, honestly, it's not the best neighborhood in Oshkosh. Would I like it to be? Yes. But it's on the cusp. And I don't feel like this is going to help it go upward. I just don't. So I'm hoping that the petitioners have answers for me, but I just really hope you guys consider how the neighborhood really does feel, not just a core part of the neighborhood that I don't believe anybody that's in the vicinity of this is a part of that core team. I mean, River East is a pretty decent sized neighborhood. I feel like we're not being properly represented here. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else from the public?
I want to ask. Bottom line, are you just systematically opposed to the thing, or do you want your issues addressed?
I'm systematically opposed to it, actually. I mean, somewhere just not.
Come on up.
Brad Lasky, 1319 Bay Shore Drive. I'm in the Students Park neighborhood. I'm really here just to learn more about the project. Like the previous speaker, the first time I was notified of this project from a process was through the Oshkosh Examiner. So that's kind of how it came to be known to me. And so I started talking to a number of people, basically because in the article it had stated that everyone was in line that this was, a really good idea. And I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a well-intentioned idea in a very poorly located spot for a number of reasons. I grew up in Oshkosh. I'm from Oshkosh. I've been here 35 years. And as you can see, I'm passionate about where I grew up. I grew up on the northeast side of Oshkosh, and now I'm on the east side of Oshkosh. And I like hearing, we've worked very hard to get our neighborhood to be more owner-occupied. And I think this goes against that and the feel of the neighborhood. Also, I have concerns about what happens when Washington School, when that disappears, what happens to our neighborhood. So I'm here to learn, ask more questions. I have a lot more questions than answers right now, and I'm interested to hear about this site selection and why this is the right site for this development. And there are other locations in the city that I feel are more suitable. So what those are, I think that's up for interpretation if you learn more. So I'm here to learn because I don't know much about this project. So
Thank you. No, we had another lady that wanted to come up.
Before I speak, is it better to have somebody from Day by Day speak first, or shall I?
If you have questions, it may be better for you to speak because then they can address your questions when they come up. And I know they're taking copious amounts of notes over here.
Hi, Carmen Scott, 521 Otter, which is directly in the line of sight of the proposed building. And unlike other individuals who I appreciate everybody's viewpoint, I am on the core team. The core team is not any secret society. It's people who stepped up and said, I want our neighborhood to be a better place. So if someone isn't aware of the core team, either they haven't looked at flyers, they haven't been on Facebook, they have not come to any of the meetings. There are two mailings that go out annually for the fall and the spring meeting. And at each of these meetings, there's a sign up. My husband actually built the database for River East, so we send out mailings via email. The city pays for mailings directly from, we write the newsletter and it goes out. So there's a lot of communication, and I understand there's a lot of chatter that goes on. There's a lot of individuals who, everybody's busy, everybody works, everybody has kids. Things fall through the cracks. But those of us who have chosen to be on that core team, along with other individuals who were not, were at a meeting on June 1st. It involved Day by Day, it involved the architects, the security. It was a couple of hours of meeting, and it was very, very informative. As the individual who does most of the writing for the River East Facebook page, I think it was the next day. If you do a search, you're going to see information that I've put on. There was another mailing that came out from Day by Day. They asked for someone on the core team to be a signature, which I did. I helped them to rewrite their letter. So living at 521, I'm 6 houses away from the train. I walk my dog 4 or 5 times a day. I probably go by that site a couple times a day. I go down to the river probably 4 times a week. You are correct. There are homeless already here. We all know there's a lot of homeless. I made a choice when we moved here 4 years ago that walkability and the amenities that were there, such as the library, the Y, close to downtown, those overshadowed what I thought could have been negatives. And moving into River East, I knew the reputation. I knew it wasn't pristine, but I also knew it would take individuals that said, I want to make a difference. So that's my perspective. We moved here from a different state. I don't know how many of you have ever been homeless, how many have ever been put in a position to just about be, but twice we came so close to homelessness because of a terminal brain injury of my husband. I was his caregiver. I've gone bankrupt. I've been an abused spouse. I mean, I can't tell you how my heart hurts when I hear people saying, well, the homeless are all mentally ill. They all do drugs. They all are alcoholics. It's just simply not true. The percentage of individuals in this city, and it is documented, who are actually working poor. Maybe they were evicted. Maybe they were divorced. Maybe they can't get a first and last month's deposit together. So to paint with that brush that it's all drug addicts, it is all people who are criminals, simply isn't true. A large percentage probably are. And I'm sure the Day by Day Warming Center is going to address the security issues. We're talking, my understanding is doubling the population. Doubling the population means potentially 50 to 60 individuals. What percentage are already in the, hanging out in the library or living by the river or other places? I imagine it's pretty high. I think the site selection is awesome. You've got the police nearby, you've got the fire department nearby. It's a locked unit. Once they're in, they don't get out. They do security checks every single day on every single individual that goes in. That is my understanding. I could be mistaken on that. But I think that I would rather have this than a vacant lot. I think it actually helps the neighborhood. Since the 4 years I've been there, we are finally more owner occupied than rentals. I have neighbors who are renters and they're fantastic and they're active and they're on the core group. And it's really up to each individual to decide how they want to perceive this. Not in my backyard is something. And I understand property values. I do understand wanting to have a great neighborhood. I think we are a great neighborhood. I've seen that are a compassionate neighborhood. And I think this goes right in line with the kind of neighborhood that I bought into for a lot of different reasons. And I think that it's actually a great location. You're close to services that homeless people need. You're on the bus route. The number of people who are homeless who can't work because they have no car. So if you put this somewhere out where nobody's going to see them, they're not going to bother anybody, they're not going to have transportation. That's going to be a huge issue. It's a gigantic barrier. You've got just so many opportunities for individuals who need some help. Yes, there are mentally ill, but individuals. Yes, there are individuals on drugs and alcohol, but it's not everybody. And I know Day by Day will hopefully address these issues, and it can be a discussion that is not something that is shoved down someone's throat. And I can appreciate if people have not volunteered, if they've not been part of the neighborhood core group, if they feel like it was an insider group. We all just said those who were there, and there was probably, I think Yvonne was there, I think there were 8 or 10 of us that were there. We don't have any voting power. We didn't vote on anything as a neighborhood. We listened and said, talk to your neighbors, talk to those who you live next door to, or disseminate information. It wasn't any vote at all. So if anybody has an idea that it was a vote by the neighborhood to approve this, it wasn't a vote at all. But I do think that it's a great location for this, for many reasons, and I look forward to hearing what Day by Day has to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public here to speak on this item? I think we have some people who are ready to answer some questions if they're willing to come on up.
Good evening, Jason Havlick, 1944 West Breeze Drive, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, member of the Day by Day board.
Eric Spar, also member of the board and the treasurer, resident of the town of Omro. I'll start and Jason can follow up. Just to address a few of the concerns and just a little bit of background. Currently, the shelter is operating out of the basement of a church. It operates 6 months out of the year. Essentially, that's all it's allowed to operate under the permit that's out there right now. When it goes out of season, basically as summer hits, then those individuals that live or stay at the shelter during the colder times are on their own. And so there isn't really an alternative place that
will take all of them. There are other locations that are more restrictive than Day by Day is. But essentially, when summer hits, these are individuals that are all over the place, and we've heard a little bit already about seeing them around, and they are around. And specifically, they're around the area that is the proposed site now. This is a population that generally is not very mobile. So essentially, as we heard reference to this already too, that if the site is not in a location where the population it's meant to serve is already located, they're not going to go there. They're not going to be able to get there. So that was one of the things that went into selecting the site. There were a number of other sites that were looked at. There were also some existing sites that would not have been new constructions that were looked at. And I guess Jason was more involved in the site selection and construction part of this than I have been, so I'll let him speak to that. But certainly there were other sites that were considered, and ultimately this was the one that was selected as the most appropriate. As far as number of police calls, and I can say my day job is in the district attorney's office in Winnebago County, the number of calls or the police attention that's needed at the shelter while it's operational is probably far less significant than the same population when the shelter is not operational. I think the law enforcement is needed much more significantly when they don't have a place to stay at night. So I understand that there is always concern about that, and I understand the concerns too that this is a population that probably has higher instances of mental health or drug use issues than the average population. Those are things too that the shelter does attempt to address. There are services that are in place there, and I know there was reference to what goes on during the day there. There are some services, for example, right now there's a counselor that comes in during the day and does provide services to some of the people that utilize the shelter at night. So it's a shelter that opens in the evening for people that are going to be staying there overnight. They are served dinner there. They have breakfast available and sometimes are provided food during the day as well, but it's not a place where they're staying 24 hours. So they are leaving during the day other than some of the services that are provided there. There are some classes that are provided there as well, and actually even out of season there are classes that are provided at the current location right now. There is a group that's part of the planning that is planning the shelter right now that is specifically dedicated to security type concerns as well. So those are certainly things that we think about also. And obviously our group doesn't want there to be issues for neighbors because that causes problems for us as well as for you. So those are things that we think about, and that's some of what went into the design of the new building as well, such as visibility. So we're looking at, we had some other sites that we were looking at, for example, that had more than one story. And that created some problems for staff to be monitoring the individuals that are staying at the shelter. So the structure, and again, this is more Jason's area than mine, but there were considerations given to how appropriately can people be monitored by the staff that are working there, and decisions were made based on that to try to provide the best monitoring that we can. I think I'm getting through most of my notes here. I guess I'll leave it to Jason, or if the question was specifically for me, go ahead. I'm not sure what's more appropriate.
Just to go to the selection of this particular site, we had a team that's been looking at this for quite some time. And we basically based this on three main principles. The first one was safety and security of our guests and for the community. The next one was geographic location. You know, I think Carmen mentioned a number of reasons why this location was ideal based on all of the different amenities that our guests can utilize in that area, as well as not having transportation. And then lastly is financial as well. I mean, you look at some pre-existing locations where there are 2 stories, things of that nature. They were significantly more expensive to renovate a space like that versus going with a facility that we're showing here. You know, we're funded all through different volunteers and things of that nature. So when it comes to looking at a building, putting a building up, you know, we got to be very, very cost conscious and making sure that we're making the best decisions for our guests and making sure that we've got a good program to be able to get involved with. We have the right food for them, the right sleeping conditions. So all of our principles around this building is making sure that we're caring for the needs of our guests.
Kathy?
Hang on. I just have a question about daytime services, and maybe you two aren't the ones to address it. Is there somebody else that representing the shelter? Or if you are, then please address that idea of daytime services.
So there are daytime services, but for me to go into full extent of them, I'm probably not the right person to ask. Molly, who would be the person that would be the best person to answer those questions, is not able to be here today. But we can get back to you on the services during the day.
And I can answer to the best of the discussions we've had. So there's a mixture of elements. The Women's Shelter had provided statistics and studies to us that show to help the guests they have, it's actually more beneficial to have them go out during the day, go to work, look for jobs, at the same time parallel with that providing needed services in the shelter. So although it is not quote unquote a 24-hour service provided, there is services available, training, classes, things of that nature for the residents or for the guests during the day, but they are still at the same time encouraged to go out during the day, look for employment, look for housing, to address some of the other issues. So they have kind of a two-sided approach based on the information that we've been provided.
And note too, there are employees that the employees of the warming shelter are primarily there during the day, other than the people that are assisting the overnight guests. So there are some staff there during the day. So it's not something where people that are coming and going are going to be completely unsupervised. And I guess the other thing for me is we look at that is if somebody's going to be creating problems and they want access to the warming shelter, it's probably not the area where they want to be creating problems, because the shelter employees and other people that are there are going to see that. So we haven't seen a significant history of guests causing problems in the area where the shelter has been located at its current location. It's not as residential of an area as the proposal is right now, though.
Go ahead, Kathy.
The other thing I want to say is you obviously have a PR problem. And before this goes, as this goes on in the process, before it gets to the council, I would strongly recommend that Molly, as well as you two and anybody else on the shelter board, have another meeting and figure out how to engage people that are here and others that didn't have a chance to go before. So a lot of these things can get aired before it gets to the council.
Understood. Thank you.
I'm sorry. You get one shot. I'm sorry.
I'd like to address your comments regarding the aesthetics of the building, if that's all right.
Absolutely. If you just step up and identify yourself, please, for the record.
Mike Carroll's, architectural designer, Carroll's and Associates. I can understand your viewpoint. It's kind of scary. The unknown is scary. Anxiety is part of everybody's lives, but what I can tell you about the building composition is that it's some of it's whole. So it's like you see the red brick on the right and the siding on the left. Those are all the different pieces that are needed to perform and give the vehicle for service. So this is a very efficient building in the fact that you may not agree with this aesthetics, but a lot of institutional buildings are like that. It's an institutional building by nature. It doesn't serve the neighborhood in the same way a Victorian home would. You know, it's kind of, that's why we went through a rezoning process. So it's not easy, because it's like a party. There's a lot of different people. Some people don't mix, but we do our best to try and meld the different ideologies of the other buildings in the surrounding area. So if you look at the masonry on Court Tower that we have very loosely rendered there, there's masonry on this building as well. So we just try and tie like things together, and it may not be perfect in your eyes, but it's an efficient vehicle for this process.
3 weeks.
And working with these two, we're doing our best, and there's some revisions to this plan, but it kind of is what it is. It's like a Kia. You know, it'll get the job done and it's efficient, but it may not be the Cadillac. So.
Okay. Anybody else?
So residents are not allowed in the building unless there are some activities, instructional. But how far are they supposed to be with respect to the building? I mean, can they stay in the vicinity? Can they stay right there? Or is there a buffer area that they should stay away from? How does it work? Should they just be out of the building and that's it? And they can wind around? How does that play?
How the program works is our guests would be able to come in at 6 p.m. Everybody would be registered in, and then staff actually does a full background check each and every day on every guest as they come through to make sure that there's no issues from that perspective. Once they're inside the facility, they're not able to leave, and then they're able to be able to sleep and have a meal that night there as well. They'll get up the next morning. Each guest has a series of chores they have to do, whether it's cleaning or dishes, things of that nature. And then the next morning, I believe they all have to be out by 8 o'clock. They will get a bag of food to take them through them with them. Now, we will have programs throughout the day that if the guests choose to utilize, they can. But from that 8 o'clock to 6 p.m. time frame, they will not be in the shelter, and then they'll be going on to try to find employment or other things of that nature.
I think that really summarized it, but I know you'd asked about, is there a certain distance they have to be away from the shelter? I don't know that there's a specific rule. What we've seen, though, with the current location is they really haven't tended to stay within the vicinity of the shelter where it is. They have other things that they're attending to, and part of what the staff will do with them is to help them find other things to do during the day, such as job searching or a job, they end up just naturally getting out of the area, but we haven't seen people staying.
Thank you.
So my understanding is you're increasing the number of guests that you can have in your facility compared to the old place. Is that designed to meet unmet need, or are some of the concerns posted on Facebook, for example, that this will somehow attract homeless from outside the community and create need, valid?
Right. So right now the capacity is 25, and that is a hard cap. There's no way to go over 25. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was fairly common this past season and in previous seasons that there would be, you know what the numbers do. It was fairly frequent that we would hit that cap and have to turn people away. And those were, especially in the winter, those were some cold nights as well. So there was a need for increased capacity. I guess I can't speak to Facebook comments that suggested it's going to draw people, but as we know, it's and we talked about before, it's not really a mobile population, but there was a need for increased capacity. The setup will be essentially for 50 with overflow for up to 60 in the new facility.
Thank you.
I know there was a question on security. So we actually have a lieutenant in the police department that's part of our board as well. And this individual has been working directly with TR Carrolls on all the infrastructure for a solid safety and security system within the shelter.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions while we have them up there? And if there's any final statement you would like to make before we move on, feel free to right now. Otherwise, we can bring it back to the commission.
Just want to thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay. We will close the public comment session of this, and we will come back to the commission. We're looking for a motion, and then I'm sure we will have some discussion also.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Go ahead, Kathy.
Just that I'm discouraged that Molly or somebody else has not been able to come to these meetings. I think that's not helped the case, but I understand the concerns that have been mentioned, but I personally think this is a good location. I think there's a huge need, and I know people that have volunteered. I have not personally volunteered at the warming shelter. I know people that have. and they have nothing but positive comments to say about how the shelter is run in the evening and how volunteers are utilized and the positive interaction with some of the guests. So I think there's a lot of hope here and a lot of opportunity, and I'd like to see this go forward. But I'd also like to see Molly and or someone else that understands services and understands what might happen with this new facility. I think that'd be an important voice in the works, but I'm ready to vote on it.
Yeah, John next, and then we'll go to you, Mike.
So yeah, I'm a former resident of that area myself, having grown up there, and for the first 22 years of my life. My mom still lives in that neighborhood, and when this first came up, I think I was actually on the Housing Authority board at the time that we first started talking about this possible use of this land, and it was I met it with mixed emotions because of what it was going to do for the neighborhood. That neighborhood is in great need of development and redevelopment. I think the neighborhood associations have done a wonderful job in trying to encourage growth and development in our neighborhoods. But so I was very torn when this idea came up and whether that was a good spot not only for the neighborhood but even for the leach and for the other things that go on in that area. But I too understand the need. With COVID, I'm sure the need has even grown, and there's more and more people that aren't able to stay in their homes or their apartments and so forth. So, I just wanted to let people know I understand where you're coming from, and I hope that this could be a beginning of further development and redevelopment in that area, and that we can maybe target this area for more investment from our city and from our funds that we receive from the federal government and from the state government. So I hope we can target some of these neighborhoods and help them develop more. So hopefully this is a good step.
Yeah, just a reminder that we as a body at Plan Commission, we're voting on whether or not this is an appropriate land use tonight. And that's a pretty narrow thing to look at. And the larger question, is it a good idea, is more of a policy question. And I think it's a question that comes up anytime we have institutional uses come up against residential uses. We saw that with the fire tower over off of Sawyer, hearing that with the water tanks down by the lakefront. So I understand where people are coming from. I hope before this gets to council that some of the folks who are concerned about the location keep listening, keep asking those questions. If they have alternative plans, by all means, let's articulate them. To Kathy's point, I really hope that the folks at Day by Day Warming Shelter really continue their public education efforts and get us a better idea specifically what's going on there. I think that would go a long way to reassuring the city that what's going on there is what we need to happen, but also the community. Keep listening, keep answering those questions. And finally, from the city, all of us who represent the city, I really hope that we're able to articulate how this plan for a specific project fits into a larger plan to address the issue of homelessness in our community. Because the one commonality I'm hearing tonight from those opposed and in favor of this project is that we all agree something needs to be done to address people experiencing homelessness in our community. And it can't just be a building, it needs to be a larger project. So, thanks.
Okay, Tom?
So as many of you know, I'm the leader of a nonprofit, and my office is in the Oshkosh Public Library. And being there, especially in the winter, I can assure the community that there are far more than 25 or 30 individuals who are homeless in the community, because they come to the library all day, all year, and especially in the winter, because it's one of the only places to go. They're in the neighborhood and the area, and many of the people I know on a first name basis. It might surprise some people to also know that 2 of my volunteers are individuals who are no fixed address, and they are volunteering with us to teach people how to read, write, speak English, because they want to give back to the community. They're good people. They want to make a difference in the community, and they've fallen on rough times. So this is one of these situations, if not here, where? But the services that are utilized are in the downtown area. We're moving the shelter, in this particular case, 4 or 5 blocks to this area. It's going to be more centrally located to the services that they receive and that they need. And whether we're just going through a process here of changing it so that it can be even further considered, I'm strongly in support of it, because this is a small part of a systematic change that needs to occur. Thank you.
Well, I agree with the comments that have been said by fellow commission members. I do appreciate hearing the positives, and I also empathize with those in the neighborhood, because I think it was said that there is sort of a PR problem here, and we need more communication to try to cool things down a little bit in the neighborhood and really get neighbors on board with this and be able to answer some questions. So I'm really hoping that that can happen sooner than later, because it's the fear of the unknown and not knowing. Just getting more information, I think, is going to help this process along even further. I am excited to see a useful service that can be anchored in on this spot. It's been blighted and sitting there for so long, and having some targeted service for a very fragile member of our population, I think, is going to be a really good use for it. So I will be supporting this.
Anybody else? Mohammed?
Yeah. Once the residents start using the facility, okay, they are now neighbors of those who are already established there. And I think it would look very ugly if some don't see them with a good eye. They'll be in an hostile environment, and that's not very good for both sides. So I really feel the concern of the neighbors, and I particularly appreciate the fact that they voice it so vehemently, so that if something can be done about it, it is done. But in the same time, I understand that it's going to function essentially as a dormitory for people who are being coached to improve their life, and based on statistics or the way other similar institutions work elsewhere, there are less incidents than we can think of. But I'm hoping that the communication that you mentioned between the neighborhood association and some of the neighbors is improved, so that some neighbors don't feel left out. And because to me, after all, it's going to be a community. So we don't want to create an hostile community. I want to create ultimately a good one that's welcoming for all the residents. So I wish that may the conditional permits be granted, those things are addressed, or if it can be delayed for that purpose, I think it is also good. But I think if some of us here don't have a place to stay as a human, the least is to make it happen. And if other places were scrutinized, and this happened to be the best alternative, sacrifice have to be made. So, and I hope that is made in a consensual way, that the least possible number of people is against it. I yield.
Justin, I think you're the only one left. Do you have
He's recused.
Oh, you recused yourself. Okay. Well, I guess it comes back to me then. I don't want to tread over the water that everybody else has treaded here, so I'll try to keep this as brief as I can. The one thing that I will bring right off the bat, this is going to help prevent a tent city growing along the river. And I would much rather have people in a building with supervision than tents starting to pop up over by the railroad bridge or over by the bridges downtown. A note to the people that are doing this and to the people who are concerned about this. This will not get voted on before the council for 3 weeks. It'll be heard in a week, it'll be read, and then in 2 weeks after that, That will be the vote. In that 3 weeks, I would suggest both sides need to find a chance to come together. That should be adequate time to properly let people know and address a lot of the questions that the neighborhood has, and hopefully create some goodwill and reassure these people of what you're doing. I know we've done workshops with you and you've talked to us about these things. And my last point is, and this is off on a little bit of a tangent because my plan commission understands this, but this wasn't public knowledge. We had a mini home project out north of town that came before us specifically for these type of people that they're trying to reintegrate back into society. And if that project goes through and we have this downtown, I'd say we're doing a lot to address the problems that we have in this city. So this is just one minor step in improving the lives of our fellow citizens of this city. So there are other things that are coming down the road where hopefully this turns into a very temporary facility for those people. And then they can move out into these mini homes if that project ever goes through, and other projects that people have going on in the city. So it's not just this one thing. This is a big thing, and I'm proud to say that our city's working on it, and I will definitely be supporting this tonight. So I guess no one else can have anything else to say because we all get one crack at it. So let's call the roll.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0, or 7-0.
At this moment in time, we have been here for 2.5 hours. I think we should maybe take about 5-10 minutes to let everybody take a little break, stretch your legs, go to the bathroom if they need to, get something to drink. Is everybody okay with that? I need to do a motion, or do a motion, or?
You guys go to take a few minute break.
All those in favor of taking a break, say aye.
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 Opposed? We'll see you in 10 minutes.
This local government meeting is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. This local government meeting is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. This local government meeting is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. This local government meeting is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. This local government meeting is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. This local government meeting is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. This local government meeting is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. This local government meeting is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. This local government meeting is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. This local government meeting is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly.
Oh, he had to leave.
You did very well.
Okay. Well, we will recall this Plan Commission meeting for July 6th back to order. And with that, we are going to move on to item number 12, which is a public hearing for text amendments to the zoning ordinance. Let me get to my cheat sheet here. No site inspections, and is there a staff report to accept as part of the record?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, we accept the staff report as part of the record. Go ahead.
Okay, so again, as you guys remember from the last meeting, we talked about at the workshop amending the zoning code for the small solar energy systems. Go to the red line. Or
I don't think we need to. You're familiar with what we've been discussing both at Sustainability, Plan Commission at the last meeting. So this is then the formal access and the formal process of going in, removing the conditional use permit. In the staff report, we provided you a copy of that full red line document showing the changes, in its easiest form. It's changing little c's to little p's, trying to remove some of those barriers. Now, some of the other discussion we had about incentives and other building code fees and stuff will be the second part of this, is to work through that. That's more the administrative side. This is kind of the formal technical side of getting those, like I said, C's changed to P's.
Yep. So again, underneath there, in the zoning code, we simply redlined, some of these sentences just to make sense of it, so it didn't have any of the conditional use wording in it. I don't know if you guys want to read through that or not, but let's see what else we got here. And that's it. So.
But if you have technical questions, we're happy to answer
Yeah.
them. But I think you guys are pretty versed on what we're trying to do here.
A lot of the things that we've asked you, actually. I guess I'll come to the commission with technical questions.
Thank you for doing this so quickly.
Okay, public,
from the
there's
public
no one
remaining?
from the public here, so I think we can move past the public part unless somebody's in the hall listening. Wanted to come in, but I'm not seeing them. Come back to the commission for a motion and any discussion.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments, discussion? Okay, I'll just take the opportunity to say thanks for listening, because that's it makes us feel like we're doing our job then too when we're actually helping fine tune stuff with you guys. So
Hopefully, the residents are happy with that.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to do, is make it easier and more streamlined, and
Did we vote?
we're going to vote.
Oh, good.
Call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Colabali?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hens?
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, let's move to our final item on tonight's marathon agenda.
All right, as you recall, at the last meeting, we had a prior brief discussion about potential ARPA funding requests. I asked that Plan Commission get documentation to us of anything they would like the board as a collective body to recommend. We did receive one request that had 3 items in it. Those are Lakeshore Park, housing funding, and room tax. So I want to take these just very briefly, one at a time. I know Ms. Prop, do you want to add any context to number 1 with Lakeshore Park?
It's been a long meeting, you don't want to hear me. I thought they would get, they did get my.
They did get it. I just
Yeah,
didn't know
well,
if
then
you
they've
wanted
got-
to add anything
They've had
to
my,
it.
my points, and I won't belabor them.
So, open for discussion on Plan Commission. So this would be a body's decision to support up to $2 million in requested ARPA funding for Lakeshore Park. So if this body supports it, we're going to be taking votes on all 3 of these. If there is support for it, then I'll be filling out that ARPA sheet on behalf of this body and forwarding it to council. Any comments on it?
Question, I mean, sorry for dropping and failing to add additional ideas. There's no possibility of adding additional or amending this list?
I will leave that up to this group. If you want to add other stuff to talk about tonight, you can. Remember, it does not preclude you from an individual from filling one out.
Right.
They are due on the 9th now, so.
I'm going to peddle my idea separately anyway.
Unfortunately, only got it today, so it only gives 3 days to apply, but.
Would we consider, I don't know if that's a John Hintz chair decision or how that operates.
My preference is let's do these 3.
First, okay.
And then John and Plan Commission, you can decide if you'd like to have additional topics afterwards.
Okay.
Just a question on the 3. There's so much funding available, and you've already put a dollar amount on Lakeshore Park.
I have
What's
my dollar.
your dollar? What you,
Out
a
of the
suggested dollar amount on Lakeshore Park? Is there suggested dollar amounts on everything else, and what does that come to?
So I see $2 million for Lakeshore Park. I see $2 million for the housing fund. And then I do not see a total for room tax.
Well, I guess I do want to comment.
Yeah.
I pulled those numbers out of the air, and I deliberately didn't ask Justin or anybody in the housing world about my housing fund. I just felt that COVID, if it did nothing else, put housing right in our face. And not just the homeless, but the low income, everything. And the city never gets a chance to spend money on housing. This is not our job. Justin operates with federal funds. And this is our one shot. Sewer, water, we can always, we bond for that. We need to put something special into here. And that's why I suggested these things.
Yeah, and I look at the housing fund. I think this is a really good use of these funds, and that I've seen other communities. It isn't impossible for the city to use some of the dollars they get from the state to start some of these housing funds. We choose not to. We choose to put it into other uses. But I think we do some rental housing or first-time home buyer kind of assistance and that kind of things. But
That's
I mean,
minimal.
this could be this could turn into a revolving use fund too, and that if you, depending on how you set it up and what you do, if you allow people to get into their first home or whatever, they can, have a forgivable loan or a loan that's only payable when they, resell their home, and that can actually be the start of something that can be a revolving type process. So and that we've been helping people for years. And so I saw that happen in Green Bay and Brown County, where they had a huge. I mean, we operated an entire year's worth of programs just on monies that were returned from people that got money up front. 5 years, 6 years down the road, they were repaying that because they moved into their second home, and all of a sudden now you have that money coming back in, and you could run whole another program for a number of other people down the road. So, we need to make it a priority to do it, to use some of our existing funds or maybe these ARPA funds to do that. So, I agree.
Tom?
I did turn in something that suggested using it to fund the little house program, the transitional housing.
That's the one you gave
program.
me last week, Greg.
Yeah.
Okay. So that I've already turned in.
Right. So, so housing is a priority for me, other than giving the entire 20 million to nonprofits, which is something very close to my heart. We do have a significant housing issue in the community.
And I don't know if included in your housing fund notion, this was the additional idea that I was going to throw out, was just lead paint, and I don't know if that's something that you're talking about is usable for
Specifically, no,
housing
but
fund.
I wouldn't be against it.
Yeah, it's just a major issue that's prevalent throughout our community, largely experienced by lower income families in our aging housing, and it's so costly. And the city does have some funds for it, but even to take a loan for that thing, your property doesn't go up $40,000 in value because you've addressed your lead paint. You haven't changed your square footage or anything. So anything shy of a grant is really prohibitive. For landlords as well, it's easier maybe for a homeowner to get it. I don't know all of your particular landlord regulations, but oftentimes then the landlord is required to rent to a lower income family if they're getting certain like CDBG funds, and then they have to get income documentation. Just a whole lot of new stuff that, again, is going to be prohibitive. So it's nice when sometimes there's funding that is maybe bureaucratically less intensive, that it makes it more accessible for
easier to access.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on these items?
I don't want to belabor it, but I think the park idea, I like that idea too. It takes so long to get things done because there's so many different priorities, and it's great that we've been able to upgrade our parks every year. Like there's one that's getting a major facelift, and but I think if we can do something here that we can do things quicker and get things done, that benefits everyone.
I think it would be a huge community service.
Yeah.
Lakeshore Park. I mean, to bite off another chunk.
Get it done and make it available, and that it has impact for everybody. And
right.
Okay, and, I don't know who was next. Mike, go ahead.
Real quick, so I don't disagree with anything. I can't talk. I don't disagree with anything you all said, but I am voting present on these just because I don't want to set up a situation where council members are getting territorial over their commissions, fighting over these limited funds. So don't take my vote as anything more than keeping my powder dry.
Sounds good.
So my priority personally would be housing amongst the lists that are up there, but I think 2 million is wholly inadequate. I would go more.
Beef it up.
So I think the way we'll do this is we'll look for a motion on one at a time.
On Lakeshore, okay, a motion, looking for a motion and a second on just the Lakeshore Park part of this.
I move.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Now we can have discussion, and if we want to amend it.
Yeah, if you want to suggest a different dollar amount, now would be the
Yeah,
time.
Yes,
I mean, I just
this is.
pulled that. Well, I didn't just pull it out of the air. I pulled it out of the plan, but any amount of money. But $1 million, something worthy, and $1 million is worthy. 2 million is better, but same with the house.
So what is the number that we're currently at?
So right now, I would put the request in for 2 million based on the documents we have.
And that is required, that you have a dollar amount?
I have to go back and look.
Well, let's just if we're willing to do it, let's do it, and the council will, and the city manager.
I would
will
encourage you
lock it
to
all
at least
the heck
put
anyway,
a
so don't
number
worry
in
about
there
it.
to help
Would,
give council some
Yeah, give them
factors.
something to
let's,
chew on.
well, let's give them some wiggle room. Let's go 2 to 3 million, or 1 to 2 million, or put some put some playroom in there so that way they have room to work on it too, so they don't feel like we're saying 2 million. I don't know.
If Kathy makes that, then I think she can just change it, right? Because it's
Right.
her motion.
What?
Or something to
Somebody
that
else
degree.
change it. This is a.
I would offer an amendment
1.5 to
changing
2.5?
Yeah. I
1
think
point-
that seems to be
1.5 to
nice.
2.5 million.
Does that sound
Move to
like what
allocate.
you're?
I took your lead, John, and I offered a friendly or an amendment. Is that a friendly amendment? Whoever offered this.
So it's,
This is an informal discussion, people.
Oh, is it?
Well,
Yes.
at this point, we are making
we,
formal recommendations.
yes, we're making
Formal
formal
recommendations.
recommendations. We're gonna take a we're gonna take a vote on.
So
each
there
of
was
them.
who made the motion?
So it's moved.
All right. So I made an
yours?
amendment request. Is that
I'm happy to accept the friendly amendment.
all right?
Okay. And the second was Ms. Kiefer. Okay. So any further discussion? Let's call the roll.
All right, Mr. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Perry.
Aye.
Mr. Colabelli.
Aye.
Councilmember Ford voting. Did you say?
Present.
Present. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure. Mr. Kiefer.
Aye.
Ms. Prop.
Aye.
Chairperson Hens.
Aye.
6-0.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll move on to the housing fund. What is our dollar amount on that?
Right now, it's 2 million. I would look for a motion, and if someone
Yep.
would like to
Make a motion.
suggest a different price, feel free.
Beef it up.
I don't wanna make you
Let's don't beef it up.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. Just get it on the table.
Okay. Second.
I'll say.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
I'll start really quick. Is it something that we can delineate some of the concepts that we have in housing fund as opposed to just housing funds? For example, he mentioned the Oshkosh Kids Foundation Small Homes Project. That would be something. I don't want to. I'm trying to be neutral in the whole day-by-day warming shelter thing, but that is another development that's very closely related to that. The lead fund, not that we have to put a dollar amount under each, but just so that we can give some guidance as to what we're talking about.
I'm going to take any discussion you do right now and incorporate it into filling out of my form tomorrow. So
Okay.
get it out there, get it on the record, so I have it. Oh, we're not recording anymore. I better take good notes.
But we still are recording. We haven't adjourned yet.
Oh no, we are still recording.
Yes,
So
we
I
haven't-
will re-listen to the discussion you have right now and incorporate as much of that as I can into the ARPA form.
I'd like to see some of that housing fund be for redevelopment or redevelopment or rehab,
Further development.
homeowner improvements, home improvements. Maybe that's what I'm looking for.
And my original idea was a revolving fund, that some, maybe low interest or no interest, they pay it back in, and then we get something established. So I liked your,
So then we discuss what the
Clear.
appropriate seed money would be approximately, so that way we would have enough for that, for
oh,
something
why
like
don't we
that.
up the amount, people? I thought too small.
Yes, you did.
Tom?
I would, because there's a vast array of housing issues and there is somewhat limited money for it, I would still say that it is a significant priority and would suggest something on the realm of $10 million.
Do you have a range that we can throw out to them, so that way at
8
least
to $10 million.
8 to 10.
Sounds glorious.
Who made the motion?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we have that accepted. Any further discussion on this item?
So I don't want to, again, missteer or do anything that's inappropriate. I don't think necessarily this is, but I do believe that the Housing Authority may submit something for their child care facility. And I'm not sure that necessarily fits in housing, but part of the notion is that it's providing contract-free daycare services, including second shift, that would be able to provide services for lower income folks who tend to be residing in a lot of low income housing, and it's at our weight rug facility, the part of the restoration there. So, yeah, I don't know if that fits in
I
this
think
or.
that's another item on the list.
We can add that as another one, if, like a separate item or.
I believe that what Mr. Mitchell is describing, and having been a part of the weight rug discussions in the past, definitely fits within a housing fund. Generally, the administrators have significant leeway. This is to improve housing and improve our community as a whole, so I think that it does fall within that realm, and the administrator should have no problem, if it were to be funded at that level, to make that decision for something like that.
Yep.
I have no objection.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's call the roll on housing funds.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Present.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, moving on to
Thinking I love this.
restoring lost room tax revenue. Do we have a dollar amount on that? No.
No.
Do we even have a clue on the dollar amount on?
I know the
lost revenue?
administration knows the amount
Right.
of lost room tax revenue. I do not know the number off the top of my head of what that.
I don't either. I just
Okay,
know
so
that-
I don't think,
I don't
actually.
have a number, but I just know that the Convention Bureau, that's how they're funded.
Mhm.
And they went to about approximately zero during COVID.
So would
Grand
we,
Opera House is a significant, couple hundred thousand or something. But I didn't look up the number.
okay, well, we have,
Can we just say restore lost room tax revenue, and maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's $2 million?
do we need to put a dollar amount on it, or
I think given the nature of this request.
it's kind of
No,
self-explanatory?
and it is a specific line item within the COVID funding. I think there's the 4 categories.
Yeah, it is.
And restoring
And
lost revenue
restoring
is
is
one.
one of those
So,
categories.
In this
That's-
instance, I think the concept of refilling the room tax pot meets kind of the intent.
As far as I'm
of the
concerned, the
article.
concept is what we need to get on the table, and let's not put any money.
This one, I think it makes sense to not put a number in there.
And before I ask for a motion, because you specifically brought up the tourism and bureau, do you want to specify that?
Well, that's what funds, the room
I
tax
just
revenue
wanted- I just
funds,
well,
convention and tourism,
Just
and the
wanted,
Grand
just,
Opera
I'm
House.
just trying to dot i's and cross t's here, because, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
some people see money and,
No, that's where it goes.
okay, so do we need a motion in a second, or did you have something, Tom?
Well, my concern about restoring lost room tax revenue is that it can be broadly interpreted, and it really could fill a hole in a road, whereas the intent is to restore certain services that were greatly affected due to COVID, like the Visitors and Convention Bureau. And so this one has the most concern for me, just because it's such a broad pot of money that can go to do anything.
It has specific.
And so I'm a little concerned about that, because what ends up happening is you start shifting, because you have more in one pot and you move money out of one pot back into another. So even if it doesn't directly go to filling holes in the road, it can indirectly go to filling holes in the road because of the broad category of room tax. So I'm most concerned about this one, in that it probably wouldn't be used exactly as intended.
Okay. Well, we probably should get a motion and a second, so that way all of our discussion is.
I don't
I
have to
think
make
that's
a motion.
a good question, is, how is that room tax allocated and used?
I'm telling you how it's allocated. It's allocated to Convention and Tourism Bureau. Well, the hotel, people that go to the hotels pay their room tax. The room tax then is allocated to Convention and Tourism Bureau. It's a big part of their funding. And there's a chunk that goes to the Grand Opera House to keep it going, and I know that because I was part of setting that up. So I don't know that there's any other places where the revenue goes. But if this is something that we are gonna choke over, I won't make a motion to, I won't advance it any further. I won't make the motion.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, I think we need to help. I mean, that's what drives our city in a lot of ways, in a lot of our tourism and stuff like that. I mean, I think we need to, if they weren't able to implement programs or come up with new marketing campaigns and because of the lost revenue, and they had to put all that. I mean, that stuff needs to get.
And I'm talking
restarted.
strictly the COVID.
Right. Yeah,
months.
and obviously Grand Opera House, you're not being able to have performances and stuff like that. I mean, we don't want that to go under. We don't want that to, that's a
No.
vibrant part of our community. So I think I like the idea. I think it's.
But maybe
good
they
to use.
survived. Maybe they survived. Bleeding, maybe, but they survived. So.
But we need to do more than just survive. They need to really prosper and move forward. And,
Yeah. Well, from now, yeah, but anyhow.
So does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to restore lost room tax revenue.
We have a second.
I'll second it if he's gonna make the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this? Okay, let's call the roll.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Present.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hens?
Aye.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, do we have anything else under this ARPA that I'm not aware of, Mark?
Nothing else was submitted. I
For
guess
us.
if anyone else wants to bring up a topic, I'll leave that to your discretion. Or, as a reminder, doesn't prohibit you from filling it out yourself. Maybe unless you're Mr. Then I don't think you're allowed.
Okay, with that said, accept a motion for adjournment?
May I ask? You don't have to allow it, but I was just gonna ask if, I already brought up the lead one, and that's what we incorporated that. But did you guys have any specific ideas that you had hoped that we had considered or that you were looking at that you think would be an appropriate use?
Yeah, so staff had previously given its feedback on potential allocations and sources for the funding as well. And I think you've touched on what some of those concerns are with housing and affordable housing, some of those issues.
Okay.
And I held back some ideas just because brevity. Let's keep things short. So if we have a motion to adjourn?
I will move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now adjourned.
Workshop.
Workshop.